there, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Out the Podcast. It's the podcast, not the box. But, you know, we do that too. I am Johananon.
That was a certified banger of an opening.
There you go.
I'm Casualty CDG. I'm a retired child crimes and human trafficking detective turned tabletop titan and improv comedian.
And I am Vengeance.
Oh, man.
Or you could call me the professional media and movie mastermind, the Funhouse, Drew Munhausen. And welcome to episode 35 of Fresh Out the Podcast, where we are going to speak about everything Batman.
And that's why your intro was so good, because it was like a shout out to Batman. It was really topical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. That was
he's
really
Vengeance.
Good. Mm-hmm.
I like that in my mind, right? You wrote that down.
No, I didn't write it down, but I did think of it like a few hours ago. Like, I'm going to open the show by saying I am Vengeance, and I just had it stored away. So it definitely was, in my
mind, you were like, I'm Vengeance. That's what happened in my mind.
Because I knew that instead of you guys thinking that I was cool, you both were immediately going to be angry at me, and that was the right assumption.
Who would ever think someone is cool for saying that? Batman wasn't even cool when he said that.
Which one?
Well, speaking of, we had this with the Suicide Squad. This is the Batman.
Batman.
To be clear. Which we have all seen.
Or Batman 12 if you want to get technical.
Or Batman 1 if you're naming it like a Battlefield game.
Actually, it would be Batman 2. Batman Year 2. Or whatever year he's in now. Because I think he's in Year 2 of being Batman, or just finished Year 2. Anyway, we've all seen it, and we have actually not shared any of our thoughts on it with each other yet.
This at all.
It'll be all of the first time hearing each other's thoughts here. But before we get into it, I wanted to talk about this article. I don't know if you all were aware of it. Did either of you, by any chance, happen to see the Batman at an AMC theater?
No, but I know what you're going to talk about. I saw the headline.
Yeah, so there was a headline this week that AMC was basically experimenting with variable pricing for the Batman, meaning that they would be charging slightly higher prices for tickets to see the Batman than they were for other movies playing in the same theater at the same time. So just kind of interesting. Actually, Steven Spielberg predicted something along these lines happening a while back.
It's a real roundabout way to say that tickets are marked up.
Yeah, so I just was curious to kind of get your initial thoughts on that.
To say that Steven Spielberg predicted it. I mean, predicting that people are going to be greedy fucks and take advantage of poor people, that's not much of a prediction. I feel like it's definitely any chance they get, man.
I was just thinking about Steven Spielberg last week, and whenever he was saying that like streaming content shouldn't be Oscar worthy, that was a couple years ago, and he's gotten over that. But this is another perfect example of shut up, Steven Spielberg.
I think he just made a correct prediction, and I think so. I don't think this is just saying, ticket prices are being marked up. I don't think it's that. I think that this all has to do with the eventizing of movies, in the sense that, as we've seen during the pandemic, movies have been coming out over the course of the past year more regularly, but a lot of them aren't making a huge dent in ticket sales, unless it's Spider-Man No Way Home. Like, that's the movie that everybody went to go see.
Quite a dent.
And it did just as well as it, probably would have in a non-pandemic era. But a lot of other movies that, a couple of years ago probably would have made more money are making less, because we're used to things coming out on streaming or VOD and being able to watch things at home, and people are being more careful with what they decide to go out and see. And people are going to go see the Batman, so why not raise the prices in for these event type movies?
That's a dick thing to do unless you're making it an event. And what I mean is places, we're all from Houston, Texas, places like Alamo Drafthouse, make it an event.
Yeah.
There are themed drinks, there are themed foods.
Special menus, yeah, man.
Yeah, okay, so if you want to charge an event price at your theater, then make it an event. Hire a guy to come in as Batman and put up stand-up billboards and serve Batman drinks and give people Batman-themed cups. But if you're just jacking up the price just because, I mean, literally, that's exactly what that is making people pay more for the movies they want to see. And then movie theaters are going to complain that people are pirating movies again. And it's going to be like, yeah, well, you literally raised the prices of the good ones. Like, what? That's not, it might be a good business strategy, but it is not good for people and it's not good for your customers. It's just for greedy pockets.
You can't apply typical business practices to the arts. It's not a thing you can do. It doesn't fucking work. People don't like it. It bothers people. It gets to you. You know what I mean? But so my whole thing, I mean, yeah, Gary, you're absolutely right. Make it an event if you're going to charge more. If you don't give me something extra, fuck you.
Especially if you're going to call it event pricing, right? Yeah. Then make it an event, and that's no problem. But if it's just a markup, it's a markup because it's a blockbuster. A blockbuster tax isn't fair. Yeah. Having to pay more to see a movie because people like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing for me, what Drew was saying about, people being more picky with the movies they're actually going to go see in person. I mean, that's true. People don't want, you can't pass off that same shit anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, because people don't want to go to the movies anymore. That's not what people are doing. People want to see the Batman. That's why they're at the movies. They don't want to just see a movie. It's like, what's out? Let's go. That looks passable. That shit doesn't fly anymore.
You're right. People are much more selective in what they go see at the theater. And you would think, obviously, they want people to come to the theater. So So raising prices is just raising that barrier for entry. It seems a little silly. Plus, the percentages that movie theaters get from ticket sales is so incredibly low as it is. Like, why mess with the ticket prices? Like, why don't you, increase the prices of concessions at peak times if you're wanting to make more money? Because that's where they make all their money. I don't know. There's just a lot of questions for it.
They could roll out a premium menu during select rush hour. You know what I mean? Like, you're right. Yeah, they don't even make that. That's like, it's just a kick in the nuts for no reason.
Are not concerts. You pay different amounts of money for different bands that are in higher demand, and you pay more money depending on where your seat is at a concert. But just movies are not that. I don't know. It's just, I feel like they're just gonna get a lot of backlash from this, and
they already are, and it's from us.
Yeah, and maybe it's something they'll just quietly keep doing, and people will eventually just get used to it, as what happens with a lot of these things. But I just thought it was worth bringing up. I was curious to see if either of you had gone to an AMC theater or experienced this. It looks like in an experiment that Deadline did, they did compare prices, and in Times Square, tickets for the Batman were only $1 more than tickets for Uncharted or Dog, other movies playing at the same time. So,
while we're talking about the movies that we did go to, I had a fun experience today at the movies.
I was going to ask, did y'all have a good theater experience for this movie before we get into the movie itself?
You go ahead, because I have a story.
Yeah, I did. We recently moved. And so I didn't know how going to a day one release for a big movie was going to be. And, I guess it's a day two release, but you know what I mean, opening weekend. And we got tickets for 2:00, which was like, damn, midday, everyone's going to be off. Like, this might be packed. And it was 30 people in the theater. The theater seats like 100. There was no problem parking, no line for concessions, got my drink, got my popcorn. Me and my wife went and sat down. We got great seats right in the middle. No one around us. No one talked. No one took out their phone. There were no crying kids. It was pretty much the exact movie-going experience you would want. It was a perfect theater experience. Jahan, how about you?
Yeah, so I had an interesting time. I went with Jenny. She had to go before work. She had work at like 3, so we saw the 11 o'clock to see a 3-hour movie. Makes sense, right? That timing works out perfectly. I went with her and my younger brother, Keown, and we went to Cinemark. We got there we got in at like 11:05 or something, right? The credits hadn't started yet. Fine. Awesome. We're in. First off, there's like half an hour of fucking previews. Half an hour. It was lengthy. I noticed that, but that wasn't the issue. So we're watching the movie. Everything's good. We get to a certain scene, and boom, power goes out. Comes right back on. But we're in the XD theater because we paid a little extra to sit in the nicer theater. I thought, why not? Cool times. Apparently, those theaters take longer to get back online when they go out. It was down for half an hour. But I had to see the movie. I had to see the movie today because I knew we were talking about it. I had to, suck it up and just deal with it. Jenny's time's getting tight, but she can still stay and watch the movie. And we're watching the movie. Everything's fine. We hear that people were talking outside. The manager's going to give everyone refunds. Blah, blah, blah. We're going to get our money back, even though we get to watch the movie. So cool. The fucking power went out again. Like an hour and a half later or some shit. And it was only out for like 10 minutes, but damn, man, like 2 times the power went out. Jenny ended up having to leave early. She took my car, went to work, blah, blah, blah. But it was just like, damn. But we got refunds. We got all 3 tickets refunded. And apparently, Jenny, when she left here, they got a rain check, which we didn't know about. So technically, we went in with 3 tickets. We came out with 4. But yeah, that was my experience. It was really annoying.
That's a shame, especially in a movie like this that's long as it is. And I don't know, I've heard stories of that happening to people, and I've been fortunate that hasn't happened. But
first time it's ever happened.
Because that kind of ruins. I mean, that takes over your experience. Like, you're always going to remember the time I went and saw the Batman and the power went out twice.
It messes up the immersion a little bit. Honestly, the movie didn't feel that long anyways. It was a good movie. But I kind of liked the one intermission. Like, it was kind of nice to I gotta get up, go to the bathroom. Let's all go to the lobby, get some snacks. I kind of liked it, honestly. I was kind of thinking maybe they could start doing that again. Wasn't bad.
It's funny because I had, as far as the previews and everything, I actually had the opposite experience as you, Jahan. I went to a Regal Theater, and it's a theater I frequent that's closest to my home. And typically, I go see movies there all the time. And usually 20 minutes of previews is about average. So I know if I'm going to a 7:30 movie, that I usually will still get there at 7:30, but I can show up at 7:45 and I'm not going to miss any of the movie. Like, I just know that from experience. But when I went to see the Batman, it was a 7 o'clock showing Thursday evening. Theater was pretty full, but not packed to the brim, but it was like a good crowd. But the preview started early. At the 7 o'clock movie, lights went down, preview started at about 6:55, and at 6:55, and at 7:10, the movie was starting. So I was like, oh, sweet, and maybe it's because it's a longer movie and they were trying to get it started a little earlier. I don't know, but it was a good experience. We can jump into the main event here and really talk about the movie, which here's first, let's not hit any spoilers. Let's just give some general impressions of the movie and what we thought about it. And then we'll do, a full spoiler decision.
I'm leaving the spoiler alert sign up just in case, but yeah.
Non-spoilers for now, but what were your general opinions of the Batman?
I think the first thing it would just be, it was a little too long, maybe 45 minutes too long. I think it was too long.
I liked it.
I liked it too, but I agree. There seemed like there were some parts that maybe the pacing could have been.
Actually, disagree with both of you, which doesn't usually happen. I'm not usually the dissenter, but I actually was surprised because for a 3-hour movie, you guys are right. That's fucking long, and I was expecting a drag at some point, something to be like, ugh, like they could have cut that. I liked all of it. I thought it was all good, but I mean, I had a break. I got to be on my phone, so it's hard to really gauge. I thought it was just solidly entertaining the whole way through.
I thought that once it hit a certain scene, that the movie probably should have ended there. And that there was almost an entire final act that I did not need, I did not care for. I could have got up and walked out of the theater at a certain scene, and I think it would have made for a better movie experience.
Would you say that overall you still liked the movie?
I think it was like railing towards a strong 8. And then the last act was kind of 5-ish for me, and because of that, I'll give it a 7. I won't dip all the way down to a 6, but I think people should go watch The Batman. I think it is, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's pretty fresh out the box, certified, and people should go see it.
I agree. Certified fresh.
7-ish out of 10 from me.
I would give it at least an 8, maybe a 9.
I really liked it a lot, and naturally the discussions that come from a Batman. I mean, if you think about it, this is the first standalone Batman movie that we've had since The Dark Knight Rises. Live action Batman movie. You know, we've had the Ben Affleck Batman in Batman vs. Superman and Justice League and things like that, but as far as standalone Batman movies, it's the first one we've gotten in a decade.
So I actually have a funny response to that. When Annie and I were leaving the theater, I was like, I was wondering if he was as good as the last Batman. I was like, I don't know. The last Batman's pretty good. But of course, I was thinking about Christian Bale. And I was like, oh, that's right. There was a Batfleck in between then and now.
See,
but I almost didn't even remember.
Same.
I like that you called him Batfleck. I was going to say, he was never Batman. He was Bat Guy. He was a vaguely Batman-themed piece of shit superhero that had nothing to do with the subject matter of Batman. He was a rich playboy like Tony fucking Stark that drove around in a bat-themed crab tank. What the fuck? Get that shit off my screen. Fuck you, Batfleck. Oh, man.
I just think it's natural with Batman in particular as a character to want to compare to the past ones, and it's easy to do so. And for me, my takeaway from this is I feel like the Robert Pattinson take on Bruce Wayne is very interesting. You know, it's very brooding. The word emo has been tossed around a lot, which I get it.
Yes, I was going to talk about that later, but yes, his Bruce Wayne is like a 40-year-old emo kid Bruce Wayne. All right,
but I didn't mind that because I understood. I liked the nocturnal aspect of him just not wanting anything to do with the Wayne Foundation and what the company's doing, that he's just focused on being Batman and making the city of Gotham better. So that worked for me. But then it's also worth noting we hardly got any Bruce Wayne in this movie. I mean, this is the most Batman we've probably ever seen in a Batman movie. Yeah. He was Batman most of the time. And I thought his Batman was great. I would go as far as to say I still think Bale is probably the best Bruce Wayne, but Robert Pattinson might be my favorite Batman.
I think that Christian Bale is my favorite Batman package. I think he's got everything that a Batman needed to have.
It's hard to say.
But I do like Robert Pattinson's Batman, not so much as Wayne. But again, like you said, I think the story of Batman, as far as I know, my entire life, the story of Batman is that he has already come back. He's already been Batman for a while before Bruce Wayne makes a return to the city. He really does have that time gap where he is just dark and cold Batman before he warms up and comes out again. So It was cool to see that era, and I'm glad that they stuck with that instead of making him, this is, you can get the fact that this is young Batman. This is 1 or 2 years into his Batman game.
We didn't have to sit through a Batman origin again. You know, we didn't have to see Thomas and Martha Wayne getting murdered and all that. We
sort of did, because now we got this the other cool Batman origin we've never gotten to see. Because now we got the one before he's really Bruce Wayne and walking around billionaire flashing his smile. So it is almost like we got this cool origin story by skipping the origin story. What a novel concept.
Yeah, they focus on a different part of his coming into being, which is such a breath of fresh air. Because, oh my god, I am tired. I don't know how many times I've seen the Waynes murdered in an alleyway. It's a lot. I've seen it a lot. I don't need to see it.
Spoilers, we even saw it in the Joker movie. In the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie at the end. We saw it again there. So, it's just, it's everywhere.
How many times do we have to watch a pearl necklace hit the fucking ground,
Rose.
Exactly. And so I do like that the Batman, I feel like, was a little bit, it wasn't afraid to be more comic booky than the Nolan Batman movies were, but then also there were things that I feel like could have been plucked out of this movie and would have fit into Nolan's Batman universe fine. Like the Riddler would have fit into that world for sure,
more or less. So the thing about this Batman to me, I think he's by far the most realistic. Me and my brother were talking about this earlier. By far, like, he didn't do anything where I was like, that's not how that works. That's bullshit. That would never fly. You know what I mean? Like, he got fucked up. He fucking didn't have, like, his gadgets were pretty rudimentary. You know what I mean? He had a grappling hook that he used a couple times. He didn't ninja vanish, like, ever. You know what I mean? He was just
It looked like, did we see that he might still have a little bit of a fear of heights? Like, I thought that was fascinating. At one point, he had to jump from a building, and he looked, he kind of hesitated. He was scared to do so. He's not just free-falling all the time.
Yeah, because he was a fucking guy in a costume in over his head the whole time, and it was cool. Because, like, he stayed in it because he had to, because he has a sense of duty. But, like, the fearless, ruthless Batman gets boring, man. This was more human. It was more realistic. Like, honestly, that guy could exist in our world and go do those things, and probably, he'd die eventually, but he might make it.
He would die minutes in because he had no face and eye cover and got blasted by pistols and shotguns and rifles the entire time.
He did get shot a lot, and not, it's hard to aim when someone's fighting you.
I like what you're saying, but I think that he's as unrealistic as any Batman. And that's okay.
Well, that
because I think if
Batman.
you jump, are we spoilers yet? Can we spoilers?
Let's hold on for a second longer, because I want to talk about some of the other. I want to talk about some of the other characters first, from just a non-spoiler standpoint. Like, what did you think of Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman? Like,
good.
Did you like her Catwoman?
Did like her Catwoman.
No.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't like her Catwoman. I like that they went with the Halle Berry Catwoman figure. I like a black Catwoman. I'm not gonna lie. I like Catwoman as a black lady, so I'm in. I'm on board. But also, she was like 95 pounds. I like that she was good at sneaking around and getting into places, different cover, and she really blended in well. She was a great burglar. But every time she fought, she got thrown around like a rag doll because she's tiny. She was not. She wasn't sexy to me like Catwoman is. But that's I don't know. That's neither here nor there. She did struts. She had the high heels. But she just wasn't. I don't know. It's not who I would have cast.
Are you a fan of the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman from back in the day?
I was, but going back and watching that is really bad.
Going back and watching it was not as good as I remember.
Yeah, I agree as well. I liked Zoe Kravitz a lot. I think that there's a lot of potential there, but she also was kind of more used as like a plot point than a character. Like, she was almost a tool in the movie for Batman to get information, if that makes sense. So I'd be interested to see more of her from a character perspective than almost being used by Batman. Does that make sense?
Almost definitely. I definitely agree with a lot of that. She did, however, I was surprised by how intertwined, like the way her character was intertwined with the story, and the depth of that was pretty cool.
I thought it was terrible. And when we talk spoilers, I'll tell you why.
It's fine.
Let's talk some other characters real quick too. Obviously, the other big one is Paul Dano as the Riddler. And were y'all a fan of the Riddler in this movie?
I was.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic.
Paul Dano fucking crushed it.
If you're gonna do the Riddler, this is the way you do it, and not the Jim Carrey way.
Mm-hmm. I loved his tone and way of speaking, where he just seemed so unstable all the time, where he would, 1 second he's speaking softly, the next second he's like shrieking, yelling, and just going back and forth, and so unpredictable. And also, we can talk more about this in spoilers too, but his use of like social media, I thought was really fascinating, and that it was a really smart way to portray the Riddler and how he was sending his messages. I thought that was really interesting.
So I thought he was a really realistic bad guy. Everything he was doing was totally real and totally possible, and you almost could see where he was coming from, right? Because he had a story. And whenever a bad guy has a story, they're much more interesting, I think. It reminded me sort of the Michael Keaton Vulture situation.
Yeah,
I really thought that was a believable person and a believable villain. And I thought the same thing about the Riddler. There was a couple of things he said that were a little silly, but other than that, I thought he was a really compelling villain.
Yeah.
Villains are just inherently much more interesting when they think that they're the good guy.
Yeah.
And he's a perfect example.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about that specific. There's a specific part where that's very relevant. We'll talk about that later. I liked him a lot. And yeah, like you were saying, he could exist. And that's what I mean when I say like this is once again the most real world this could probably happen in real life kind of situation.
There's also a lot of supporting players, but I know we're probably eager to get into spoilers. I'll just say, like, I really liked the relationship between Jim Gordon and Batman in this movie. I thought that was depicted.
It was one of the best ones
probably the best that it's ever been depicted on screen. Absolutely. I thought that their relationship was great. And then, of course, we had Colin Farrell, unrecognizable as the Penguin, and some other great actors that pop up throughout. You got... like Peter Sarsgaard randomly shows up as that DA. And then also you've got, John Turturro. John Turturro is fantastic as Carmine Falcone. And that was another good appearance. Yeah. I didn't even realize he was in the movie.
Me either.
And he shows up as Carmine Falcone. I'm like, oh, I'm here for this.
Yep.
He's come a long way from Transformers.
He reminds me of is an older version. Well, I guess the older version of Juice from Sons of Anarchy or Shades from Luke Cage. When I saw him, I'm like, oh, that's what Juice is going to be in like 20, 30 years. He'll be that guy. Absolutely loved his performance.
And then finally, Andy Serkis as Alfred Pennyworth, which, honestly, just not enough Alfred in this movie for me to really... Alfred was a pretty minor player in this movie.
He was, and Andy Serkis was fine.
The Alfred didn't suck, but it's not my favorite Alfred.
It didn't suck, and it wasn't my favorite. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Batman just has this incredible thing with there's been enough movies now in different iterations where you could almost pluck different things from past Batman movies, and if you could make this like paper mache collaboration of them, like take Bale's Bruce Wayne and Pattinson's Batman, but then take Michael Caine's Alfred and Heath Ledger's Joker and the Batmobile from Keaton's movie, and you could do all these things and make like the perfect Batman movie. It's just funny. We have enough now to compare.
Why don't you do that? That's exactly right. Everything you said is right. I have no notes and no changes. Go forth and have fun.
There's got to be some great YouTube editor out there that can edit together a Batman movie that uses parts from all of them to make one coherent movie using these bits and pieces. Like, there's got
to be some great artist that listens to our podcast that would put together some piece that had all the pieces of the best Batman stuff. And then sell it with hashtag the Batman.
My brother sent me a video of Lord of the Rings, but only when Legolas talks to Frodo, and he goes, "And my bow," and then the video's over because it's the only time he speaks to Frodo in the whole trilogy. You guys made me think.
Sounds about right.
So right before spoilers, you guys want to actually do some rankings here? You guys interested in that?
I mean, Drew
Sure,
pretty
why
much
not?
just hit the perfect Batman movie on the head.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'll play along.
Yeah.
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah. So, where do we start? Do we start with Batman?
I will say, I mean, do we want to rank the movies themselves?
Probably.
Because in my opinion, I do not have the same nostalgia for the Keaton Batman movies as others do.
Yeah.
I did not grow up with those movies the same way. So for me, like peak Batman is probably still The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
But then I would say for me, The Batman is below that. Then Begins, and then The Dark Knight Rises, and then you've got Batman, the 89 Keaton one. It's probably about where I'm sitting, and then,
you missed
Returns
two.
Forever and Batman and Robin.
Yeah, I would bring Batman Returns up the list. I think Batman Returns with Penguin is great. The original Batman that has Jack Nicholson as the Joker, I rewatched it, I guess, a couple of years ago, and it was more boring than I remembered.
I agree.
But the one with the Penguin was still dope as hell, with all of Danny Elfman's silly music and neon lights and Joker gangs and motorcycles. That's the right feel for Batman. That's like comic booky as hell. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that people are like, oh, it's a cheesy movie, but it's a movie based on a comic book, and it was comic booky as hell. And the Batmobile looked slick in that movie. Honorable mention to Batman the Animated Series that we all grew up with. What an awesome Batmobile that had. Adam West's Batman, I think, has no play in my ride. It's silly and not good.
I didn't even mention the Ben Affleck Batman movies, which would go at the bottom of the list.
I also keep forgetting that they exist.
Again?
Because they're trash.
Yeah, they are. I can't believe we talked about it already and forgot it immediately.
I completely forgot.
Jeez. I'm sorry.
I even hate Ben Affleck as Batman entirely, but those movies are just so bad that,
In my mind, Ben Affleck looks like Batman. He can play Bruce Wayne. Like, he can do the thing. I don't know why it was so bad. Like, I probably would have cast him. I'd have made the same mistake.
Writing.
Yeah.
I feel like the writing was the problem there. But yeah, so, damn. Your list is pretty good. I like your rankings. I might switch.
I've obviously been thinking about this for the past couple days because I feel like it's just been the kind of the topic of conversation to compare and contrast, but yeah.
So I don't know. This one could switch with Dark Knight for me. I don't know. It would take more watching. But I am impressed with where this one sits on my list already, considering the fact it has one, and the Christopher Nolan has a trilogy. And Robert Pattinson's already like towards the top of the Batman list. I am interested to see what because I feel like maybe, I don't know if they're planning a trilogy, but I would watch that.
And that's a good point, and it's worth noting, a very interesting thing about this movie, and I don't think this is a spoiler to say, like, confirmed, there are no ties to any of the other DC movies or DCEU movies in this. This is its own thing. What DC's doing with their movies is very fascinating. They kind of still have the DCEU going with Jason Momoa and Ezra Miller and Gal Gadot and all that, but this is really its own Batman franchise, and I'm cool with it. I don't really get it, what they're doing, but I want more of the Pattinson Batman universe. Give me a trilogy with him as Batman. I want to see it. I want to see more in this world and more of his Batman. So, yeah, I think that's just an interesting... I don't know what their strategy is, or if they've just decided, hey, let's just make good movies, and who cares if they're intertwined. That's fine with me, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Before we move on from that, I would like to say I did enjoy Val Kilmer's movie. With the Batman. I did like that. And I liked Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
No.
Yeah, I liked it.
No.
I don't care. I watched those very young. They have a special place in my heart. I loved those movies when I was a kid. But yeah. We agree on the top ones, and that's what matters. Favorite Batmobile? What's your favorite Batmobile?
It's got to be. Let me double check. It's got to be Keaton's, right? And it may be the animated one I'm thinking of. Let me double check.
The one with, like,
They
the
were
big
kind of
fins
similar, I think.
and the jet. Yeah, they were similar. Neither of those are my favorite. What's your favorite, Drew?
I like the Tumbler from the Nolan Batman movies. Yeah. I thought the Batmobile chase in the Batman was really, really good, but his good. Batmobile though wouldn't rank as one of my favorites. To me, it's kind of, I couldn't even point out, I think, what it really looked like, despite that chase scene being really cool. So I'm actually probably going with the Keaton Batmobile as well, but for me, it'd be an honorary mention for the Tumbler because I did like it and just how different it was.
My favorite is, without question, the Tumbler. I've watched those movies again recently. I'm like, that is such a good Batmobile. It is actually a super vehicle. I fucking love it.
I hated the Tumbler when it came out, but it grew on me, and now I like it, but it's not my favorite. That's still, I went and looked it up, and it is the Batman Returns Batmobile. I love that Batmobile.
It's a good one. I love the Tumbler.
I would drive the Batman Returns Batmobile. I would all the time.
If I could pick one to own, absolutely the Tumbler. That one's the best one to own. You kidding me?
Every now and then in my suggested shopping on Amazon, it pops up. There's a Lego set of the Keaton Batmobile that's thousands of pieces, and it's like a $250 set. And I see it, and I'm like, but I just can never justify paying for it. But man, it'd be pretty cool.
Favorite Alfred.
Michael Caine. No question there.
Okay.
Yep.
That's fair. I won't argue. Michael Caine was fantastic. And then, I guess, favorite Batsuit is probably the last one.
I really like the Batsuit in the Batman. I like Pattinson's Batsuit a whole lot. I like the armored look of it, but how it still kind of looks cobbled together. I don't know. I really like the new Batsuit. And I really like the way the helmet looks, too.
Yeah, it's either Pattinson's or Bale's for sure. It's definitely one of the newer ones, but I think I'm also going to give it to Robbie P. I liked the bulky look of it. The way that he particularly fought with it was like, I am a bulky tank. It will smash. Yep. So I loved the way that it reflected the fighting style. It was a lot of fun to watch. Yeah. And for that reason, Robbie P.
See, I'm going to disagree with you. The bat suit from Batman vs. Superman, best one, period. I'm just kidding. Nothing about those movies was good. I also enjoy Pattinson and Bale's. Man, I don't know who I would give it to. All the things you guys are saying about Pattinson's are true, and I do like it.
Yeah, maybe it's just recency bias, but man, I liked the new suit a lot.
I watched Batman Begins literally last week. And he makes his suit and shit. I love his suit has a lot more of a story. I like that you get it to actually get attached. You get to see him pick the electronic molding fabric, and you realize he gets the sharp things on his arms from the League of Shadows and that kind of stuff.
And it's a plot point in The Dark Knight when he knows he needs to get more mobility and be able to turn his head, and that's a plot point in the movie is he upgrades his suit so that he could get more head movement. I thought that because that was always kind of a joke too of the Keaton Batman movies. He could barely move in that. He couldn't turn his head, and the fact that it was actually made part of the story in The Dark Knight was interesting. This one he has that mobility for the most part already in the Batman.
Yeah, no, I definitely it's one of those two. I might give it to Bale.
I'm not gonna. I won't say it's recency bias for me. I like big clunky armor.
Yeah.
So to me, it's always going to be the one I like. Also, you could see the tasers and the grapplers and his other stuff peeking out, which I thought was really cool. And then, of course, he had what looked like regular magazine pouches on his belt. Which I liked the touch of that. They didn't look super fancy. It just looked like magazine pouches, right? Yes. There ready to go.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about his gadgets and whatnot, the things he used.
So the gadgets on the costume looked cool also.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to say.
No, yeah, definitely. Man, I guess the only other thing I'd even want to rank Gordon's maybe, and that's hard. That's hard. Oldman go hard as Gordon, but Jeffrey Wright killed it. And like we were talking about earlier, their interactions were so much more interesting. I liked it a lot.
What made it his so good, I think, is that just that relationship with Batman was so great.
It was so,
and he's got a good relationship. Oldman and Bale, theirs was good too. But the fact that the way it was in this one, where they were already established as working together, and that none of the rest of the Gotham police really trust Batman, and they almost kind of make fun of Gordon for having the relationship with him. I don't know. I thought all of it worked so well for me.
I think if you would have cast a lesser Gordon, that movie would not have been as good.
I agree. So good point. It is testament to Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright. I love Jeffrey Wright, and he did a phenomenal job with this.
I also love him, and he did a phenomenal job.
Right.
Which again, this just shows some of the frustration with the things in the DCEU, because we know later this year, I believe we're getting the Batgirl movie that's coming out.
Yeah.
But that takes place in the DCEU, so it's Barbara Gordon, but the Jim Gordon in that world is J.K. Simmons. So I'm like, it's not even gonna be Jeffrey Wright, and I'm like, but I want more Jeffrey Wright. So it's just kind of frustrating when you're getting like, oh yeah, Jim Gordon. Oh, but it's not the Jim Gordon that I liked in the last movie. It's just kind of messy.
Love J.K. Simmons. One of my I love him as an actor. Great dude. He's voiced some of my favorite characters just in life in general. I could not see him as Gordon.
He's a great pick for Jonah Jameson.
He was fantastic. Spot on. One of the most perfect castings
for Jim Gordon.
Yes, one of the most perfect castings of all time is him as
absolutely
James. Yeah.
Well, should we stop beating around the bush and get to some spoilers here for the Batman?
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Let's spoil it.
Spoiler alert. Beep, beep, beep,
spoilers are now. We're in the spoiler zone for the Batman, and I'll say first before getting into mega spoilers, just one thing at the beginning of this movie that just set it all up so well for me. That was part of the vibe I loved. But in the opening scene, you get a voiceover from Pattinson, which was actually done really well. It sounds probably cheesier than it is, but I loved when the bat symbol is up in the air, the bat signal is lit up. And you see all these criminals looking at it and then looking in the shadows, and just the fear that's in them of these shadows and whether or not Batman is going to step out from them. The atmosphere that was set up there was just done so well. It just set up Gotham really well. I thought that was incredible.
It really explained how one man really could have that kind of because, he is just one guy. He can only go beat up 5 thugs a night, tops. But none of them know. None of them know, is it going to be me tonight? And that was a really cool way to show that. And you felt that fear, for sure. It was definitely a very cool moment.
I really did. You're totally right. I was on the edge of my seat during that. That was really cool. All of it was cool. You didn't, and as a viewer, you didn't know which one he was going to pop out of the darkness. So even as a viewer, you're in the edge of your seat with your eyes squinted, is he in that dark hallway? Oh no, he might be in this one. And you feel what the bad guys feel. And then of course, when he finally does show up out of the dark hallway, it's the same thing, right? You're peeking and you're like, oh, I hear him. Oh, I see him. Oh, I see him in the dark.
It was cool.
Which is another great contrast to past Batman movies where, Bale lurked in the shadows and would be quiet and take out thugs. No, Pattinson's Batman just walks up, sounding clunky as hell.
Oh my God.
Just walks out of the shadows. The thugs kind of laugh at him, but then, doesn't matter. Fire shots off at him, bullets bounce off of his armor, and he just destroys these guys. And I loved that. I loved he didn't have to be sneaky when he didn't want to be, and that he could just clunkily walk out of the shadows. Oh man, it was so good. I loved that vibe.
First fight was really good too. I always like watching one guy beat the shit out of 12 guys. So it was great. And Even the melee weapons against him bouncing off the armor. I'm going to keep talking about the armor all through this. I loved the use of it. It was just impenetrable almost. It was like an invincible Batman.
I liked his arms.
He was just limited by his own, humanity, but he was almost invincible.
Yeah, he really was a dude in some really heavy armor doing some crazy fights in Manhattan. It was, I really liked the Joker gang. That was cool. So one of the things that really surprised me, so the whole time I was expecting like kind of like an 80s style kind of thing.
I was too. I don't know if I just read something wrong a while back, but I thought this was going to be a period piece.
We all did.
We all assumed it, yeah.
Because of the Batmobile, I think. I think it's because
it most definitely wasn't. The internet and social media and all those things are at play in this one.
Yeah.
Lots of technology.
It took place in modern day. They even had, like Gotham, obviously based on New York City. They had a Gotham Square, which was Times Square, which was very interesting because they've never shown that in any other Batman anything that I've seen.
I liked that a lot.
I liked it a lot. And
I can. I was going to say I can kind of go through the plot a little bit here to touch on like some key things throughout, because obviously movie opens with a murder by the Riddler, so you kind of see the Riddler in action early on, brutally beating someone to kill them.
That was the real deal, man. That was some hardcore serial killer shit, dude. That was crazy.
After Batman's introduced, you kind of get that first scene of Batman with Gordon investigating the murder scene. So it's the first time you really see how the cops react to Batman, the relationship with Gordon, how Batman is so quickly analyzing the crime scene and pointing things out. And obviously he knows his stuff.
I thought it was really funny that he didn't have like a notepad, because I was like, bro, you can't investigate a homicide without a notepad. Like, trust me, I've tried. And so then he gets back to the Batcave like 2 scenes later and has the contact that he takes out and does a recording playback.
And then he takes like 10 books of notes. Yeah,
dude. I was like, oh, you bitch. He does have a notepad.
It's just another cool example of how this man shows himself to be like more than a man through these means, because obviously, like you said, like they're probably like, how does this guy solve anything? He doesn't like, how's he gonna remember this cipher? Like,
that's the difference between like why Batman is a superhero and not just a guy with a suit, because he has all those gadgets, right? And that's the perfect example of a really cool Batman gadget. I've never seen that before. A retinal contact that records everything, that he goes back to the Batcave and watches playback to make notes.
Yeah.
Of course he does that. That's such a cool Batman thing to do.
It also speaks to like his crazy, which is awesome. It's like double, because he's like sitting there watching his whole night over again obsessively.
Yes, and that's probably, that's how he learns to fight, and that's how he learns how people are connected in the web of things, because he's like, oh, I've seen that guy before. I wrote notes on that guy like 3 weeks ago at this place. And it's the kind of thing that just makes him so Batman-y. They did a great job showing that. Super, super interesting stuff. This is like, I kept hearing people say this is the detective Batman that we've always wanted. And absolutely, he was Detective Batman.
This really was... Yeah, this wasn't so much... This was almost not a superhero thing. This was like a crime drama at the heart of it. It was like... it was a murder mystery for a lot of it. And, catch the killer kind of thing, which was a big departure. And also, what's this rated?
It's PG-13.
It's PG-13?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
They said a single... Because you can say the F word once in PG-13, and they did it. And I was like, oh, dang, is it rated R? But they never said it again, so...
There have been some critics that have basically complained and said that they feel like this movie is kind of on a leash because of the PG-13 rating. I didn't feel that at all. I feel like it was still pretty brutal. And, I mean, yeah, there's some parts where Batman is, brutally beating someone, and you just see it. The camera is looking up at Batman as he's delivering punches. Like, that's fine to me. I don't need to see his fist connecting with the guy's face and blood splattering. Like, I don't need that. Like, I got it. Yeah. I got it. It's brutal.
See, I don't have. It doesn't trigger me. Nothing like that. It's just gratuitous. It's gratuitous at a certain point. We see it all the time. It's nice that they didn't rely on that kind of violence to make it's a solidly good movie, man.
I definitely would have thought it was rated R. And even with what you were describing with the Riddler getting his first kill, that I thought like set the pace for like, oh, this is rated R. Like I thought it was rated R because of how brutal that was.
The Riddler himself, the way he acted, the way they portrayed him, it was so disturbing. I thought for sure this would be rated R.
Even at the beginning, when you first see the mayor who gets murdered, and that first shot where he walks away and you see the Riddler standing in the back in the shadows, like, I remember having the feeling, if I was a young child or if I was here with my child, like, I would be nervous that this scared them.
It scared me scary. A little bit.
Then after that, after the kill, they get there and investigate that scene. That's a pretty brutal scene.
It was.
It's not some, pan the camera over the murder. There is blood written everywhere. There's dismembered body. Like, his head's wrapped up with duct tape. Like, I don't know why that's not rated R to wrap somebody's head up with duct tape, but that's like no different than a hanging or a stabbing. Like, that's bad.
It's very fucked up, like, depictions of serial killer ritualistic shit. It was fucked up.
Yeah, it was bad. And then
the thumb drive joke.
Oh my god, I laughed out loud.
So did me and Keown laughed. A few other people laughed. Shit, Jenny might have even laughed. Oh my god. It is a thumb drive. Like, dude, that was really funny. That was fantastic. I loved it.
The Riddler's committing these murders. He's leaving notes for Batman, specifically at the crime scene. So that kind of leads Batman on the trail from one to the next, which helps the plot move along. Eventually leads him to the Iceberg Lounge. He gets his first meeting with the Penguin. So we get to see, Colin Farrell in all his glory, who's just, of course, chewing up the scenery, just knowing that he's in a comic book movie, having a good time. The Penguin is not established yet as the big bad Penguin. He's like Carmine Falcone's second guy. You didn't like him?
Colin Farrell sucks, man. He even
he's wonderful.
I thought his Penguin was perfect.
Me too. I loved it.
Did not.
I loved it. I don't know. He was a good bad guy. He had that sleaze. He had the perfect amount of sleaze. And, point of fact, that scene where, like, he's talking to Batman, he does crime in front of Batman. But, like, he does it in such a way that it gets a pass. And it was just like, like, I feel like that's good villaining right there. When you can operate in front of a superhero and, like, they're kind of like, all right, fine. Like, sell your drugs. I need this information. That's cool to me. I don't know. And he even had a bit of the waddle going.
Yeah, especially there's that scene later on where he's tied up and truly does a waddle.
Yeah, and he had the limp, that's for sure. I really didn't like all the prosthetics. All the extra face scars that made him look like a mobster, and kind of the talking out of the side of his mouth, the gold teeth. I thought they took him too far. And I love Danny DeVito's Penguin.
Yeah.
I don't like the direction they took him. It almost it looked like it was on the same slider as the Jared Leto Joker. It was like they took him over that direction.
Danny DeVito's Penguin will always have a special place in my heart as well. I still loved this one.
Point of fact, my dad used to work at a restaurant. The owner of that restaurant, for some reason unknown to anyone, when Six Flags went under, bought the Penguin's duck car from the theme park and put it in front of his steakhouse.
I remember seeing it when you would drive past it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You saw it on over on Highway 6. Yeah, my dad used to work there. That used to be...
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew that was where my dad worked back in the day.
I did not know that you had a connection to it, but I knew that it was in front of a restaurant. I knew that was a thing.
I grew up in that restaurant, and the guy that bought that duck used to give me like $100 every Christmas. So,
Dang, I wonder where that duck is now.
he probably still has it. I don't know. I just thought that was a funny little tidbit about my life.
Let's see. So it's during the scene with the penguin that he first sees Selena Kyle. She comes in and he tails her. So that's when you kind of get the first introduction of her. He follows her, and then they have their first meeting. So here's the thing.
She's like calling the Russian girl like babe the whole time, like they're in a relationship.
I believe it was supposed to be her girlfriend.
A romantic relationship.
Yeah,
but then she's like, then she is immediately kissing Batman, wants to fuck Batman, and asks Batman to leave the state, like go upstate with her. Like, what was even the point of that being an intimate relationship? Because the intimacy was immediately thrown in the toilet. Like, I get it being your friend and someone you're connected to and someone that dies, but it didn't need to be a romantic relationship. It didn't play to the story. She wanted to fuck Batman.
I mean, they never showed the romantic relationship, so I don't feel like it interfered with the story.
That's why I was asking. She was said to be the girlfriend. She was said to be in a relationship with her, but she just, because Catwoman just wanted to fuck Batman the whole time. Excuse my rampant use of the F word. She wanted to jump on Batman's bones the whole time. She wanted to grind down on him instead of her missing Russian sister, girlfriend, wife.
I mean, so there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot of judgment here. I feel like it's perfectly natural to be attracted to people. I don't know. I feel like
to make out with Batman the day after your girlfriend got killed.
Did they make out?
Yes, they made out on the rooftop, and then she wanted him to leave the state with her. Right after your girlfriend gets murdered.
They had been through a lot.
Bro, it did not need to be a romantic relationship.
It did work weird in the sense of the plot, because the fact that her girlfriend is missing leads her to not be the perfect tool for Batman to get the information that he needs, because he then uses her, to wear
That's true.
the contact so that he can see what she's seeing, and she's more interested in getting information for her own benefit and not to get the stuff that Batman needs.
That could be a missing roommate or a missing best friend. It didn't need to be a romantic relationship.
I mean,
maybe,
and I think that Jahan's right. Like, we didn't see enough to know.
We don't actually know that.
Maybe they were really close, or roommates that maybe just
you can call people babe. I don't know. That's the only inference from a relationship. Stan, I didn't pick up on that at all.
That's why I asked before I started my rant.
Oh, I didn't pick up on the relationship.
I did kind of get the impression that it was her girlfriend, but I also, don't know enough about the relationship to fully, and I was here for the chemistry. I mean, because here's the thing: at the end of the day, the chemistry between Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz for Batman and Catwoman, I thought was off the charts.
Well, I mean, it's real.
Together was great.
They were together in real life. It's might still be.
Were they really? I didn't know this.
It's my understanding that they did it on top of that Batmobile, and that it's like a known fact. But who knows? That might be just an internet rumbling. But I do believe
it's like something you're reading on some interesting website. I don't know.
I do believe that they are going out.
One of Jahan's top followed sites is Batman Fanfic.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's been in a relationship with a model since 2018. So no, he's never been with Zoe Kravitz.
You're gonna get him in trouble, man. Now his model girlfriend thinks that he had sex with Zoe Kravitz on top of the Batmobile.
It's okay. I heard it on 4chan.
I mean, you can imagine what you want to see. That's fine. I understand. So
somebody quick, go to the fanfic site and type that up.
I'm sure it's been done.
Moving on, I love the scene with Peter Sarsgaard as the DA who gets the timed collar bomb strapped to his neck and drives into the funeral scene, and we get to see all that. I thought that was incredible. And Batman answering the riddles that are presented, helping him answer the riddles. I thought all that stuff was great and great tension.
So much of this movie was incredible. I wasn't expecting the car to come crashing through.
No.
And then you're watching the timer tick down on the bomb, and the Riddler's taking his time, mocking the DA in between riddles. And, of course, the DA doesn't want to answer in the end. It was just edge of your seat stuff. And the first kill that first scene, investigation, and like you said, all the shadows coming in at the beginning. This movie, The Batman, has so much edge of your seat stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, look at this action scene, look at these explosions. It's not Michael Bay, think that you're on the edge of your seat, adrenaline dump crap.
Yeah.
It's actually some really awesome, fresh Batman stuff going on.
Straight up
here.
suspense, man. Like actual, honest to goodness, suspenseful content, man.
You wonder how the Riddler can be terrifying, right? Like, what does he do? Break into a warehouse and leave a box with a question with the bomb? Like, it's so much more. It's so much more what
Serial Killer Riddler is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. I love it.
I think Drew had told us there was big time like Seven vibes. And I thought definitely with the ciphers and the crime scenes kind of being leading you somewhere, definitely big time Seven vibes. A little bit of Saw going on with the human body traps he made.
And Zodiac as well, like the Zodiac killer.
And of course, the Riddler, that version was definitely based on the Zodiac killer. So those things being said, of course it was a cool Batman movie. What cool influences to draw from. Those are all so great. They didn't draw from, the other Batman movies. They didn't draw from basically any Batman movie for inspiration. They took all of their inspiration, like Jahan was saying earlier, from crime movies and almost these crime dramas. And they just made the main character a guy with a bat suit on.
It was so cool. I love like that kind of crime stuff. I do like it a lot. Getting it mixed in with my superheroes, finding that onion ring in your French fries is a good day. Every performance was so good. But no, I can't talk enough about Paul Dano's Riddler. It was
him, Batman looking up when they were at that funeral and seeing the silhouette of Riddler looking down back at him.
And it seemed like he stood in the perfect spot deliberately to obscure his face with the light behind him. Like, it was so cool. And then,
that was a great shot. It was again, more suspense. You're like, is Batman going to grapple up there right now? Because he's Bruce Wayne right now. Like, what's he going to do? What you going to do, Batman? Like, I thought maybe he was going to run to the bell tower and try to catch who was coming down, but...
I liked a lot there's the kid that kept being a thing. The child of the mayor kept showing up. And I liked the tie-in from when like he looks at the kid at the crime scene all the way through when he looks at the kid as Bruce Wayne, and then at the end when he's pulling the kid out of that wreckage. Like the reason why the kid takes his hand is because they had some sort of connection, the plight of the dead parents, I guess.
Speaking of the dead parents, they end up taking a role in the plot. While we didn't see the origin, you still get a lot of Thomas and Martha Wayne mentions when it starts getting into the history of Gotham and things like that, which this is where the plot for me got almost slightly convoluted, like not enough to bother me, but it just kind of got to the point where it's like, okay, there was this drug bust that happened back when, and then this happened, and this, and it's a lot of talking and explaining the history of Gotham and things that happened and why the Riddler's murdering the people he's murdering, which is fine. It worked. I was keeping up with it, but at the same time, part of me is like, I just want to see Batman finally confront the Riddler. I want to see the next step. So that was kind of a part, I think, that to Gary's point, where the movie started to get a little long.
This is something called edging, Drew, and it's worth it. I see everything you're talking about, all that, like, I don't know, I liked it a lot. I really enjoyed the backstory of the Arkham family, because honestly, you hear about Arkham Asylum and all that stuff. Those games are great. Those games are some of the best Batman games ever, and they're up there in video games in general. But I never thought of them as people. You know what I mean? And I definitely never thought them opposite of the Waynes, with all the backstory of like the building up of Gotham with these two families. I was all here for that lore, and
I was actually also all in for that. Of the stuff of that I said there's 45 minutes you should cut. That's not the 45 I would have cut. I would have kept everything up until they caught the Riddler in the diner.
I figured
And
that's where you were going to call it.
Batman looking at him through the window would have been the last shot of the movie for me. I would have rolled credits.
Oh man, and see, I loved the scene of them together. So just going with some quick plot things. Obviously there's the big orphanage scene. We mentioned earlier the big Batmobile chase that involves the Penguin, which I thought was great.
I think we should analyze that a little bit.
I thought that was bad and boring, and I couldn't wait for it to end.
I really liked the car chase. I felt so like they didn't do the thing that bothers me about those kinds of things. They weren't on a closed course. You know what I mean? They weren't like, oh, we closed off this street so that you guys could do this chase scene. They were driving through traffic around people, and people got hurt. And the part where Colin Farrell, as the Penguin, is seeing him in the back, in the rearview mirror, and terrifies, like, fuck. And then he's like, ah! And he brake checks an 18-wheeler because he has to. And he's scared to do it. He has that terror. It winds up almost working. And then, man, I thought that was one of the better car chase scenes I've seen recently.
Maybe it was just Colin Farrell that made, and here's the funny thing. I didn't know that Penguin was Colin Farrell. I had no idea. I now that I know it is, I'm like, no wonder I hated that Penguin. So I just hated that whole car scene, probably because I hate Colin Farrell. It's probably not even because I just need to watch it again.
And love Colin Farrell.
I love Colin Farrell too.
I'll just put blinders on every time Colin Farrell's on the screen, and I'll probably love the car.
The scene after that where they're interrogating him is hilarious and fantastic. I love all the stuff he says. He says something during that scene that really stuck out to me, but I don't remember what it was.
So watching that, Jahan, I was like, I would love for Jahan to roleplay this kind of villain in like a superhero campaign, because I love how sleazy this guy is.
So sleazy.
I just didn't like him.
Yeah.
I just don't. And now I know why. The secret has been exposed.
He was just such a sleaze. I love how he's like, I'm no rat, and then like explained a bunch of, I don't know. It was cool how everything came back around, I feel.
Not to go on a Colin Farrell rant too much, but it's just, I love him ever since, I think the first thing I ever saw him in was Minority Report, which is a movie that I love. He's awesome in it. And then, it seemed for a while like he was going to be the guy they wanted to be the next great movie star. And he did that SWAT movie, and he did Alexander, and then Alexander, I think, kind of
bombed.
If I remember correctly, it bombed pretty bad. I'm actually looking to see right now.
SWAT was bad. Alexander was bad. And I forgot he was in Minority Report.
I loved him in Fright Night.
Then he had like kind of a bad history with like some alcoholism and everything. He even has admitted that he doesn't even remember filming Miami Vice. Like, he is in that movie and he doesn't remember anything because he was so far gone at that point. And now he's kind of come back, but he's become this kind of great character actor where he can be the lead in a movie, but he also doesn't mind being that side character. I mean, think of things like Horrible Bosses, or
he was great in Horrible Bosses, yeah.
And playing the Penguin here, but he can be the lead too. He's in a great movie that came out a few years ago called The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I won't get into too much, but man, that's a great movie that he's in. I think he's extremely talented, but I don't think he has any desire or need to be a movie star. Like, he just wants to do fun character parts, and I'm good with that.
I liked him as a Penguin. I thought he was spot on. That's just, I mean, hey man, you don't like him, you don't like him. I understand the prosthetics thing though. He was wearing a lot of them. I thought they worked though, but I
thought so too. I thought they looked good.
And honestly, like, he just looked like a different person. He didn't really look like, but you can kind of tell.
He didn't really look like Colin Farrell. I'll give him that. Well, the prosthetics, they were good prosthetics. Yeah. I think I would have cast an actor that didn't need so many prosthetics.
Mm-hmm.
I would have cast someone who looked a little bit more like Penguin, instead of making Colin Farrell look like the Penguin, which I don't think that he looked like the Penguin.
They made Colin Farrell look like a regular dude.
Yeah, I still think he looked like Jared Leto's Joker penguified.
Nothing will ever see. I was gonna say, I was like, I don't think I hate any actors like just outright, and I was like, oh yeah, what you just said,
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. Yeah.
Did Morbius even come out? Here's something funny. Today when I was walking to the theater, they had a Morbius January 24th sign, and I was like, "Ha! I don't think that even happened." And I kept walking.
It got delayed. It comes out April. I think it comes out April 1st. Ironically.
Oh God.
Good, because that movie's gonna be a joke.
Yeah, they would be better to not release it on that day and apologize for ever having made the trailer.
So we were starting to get to part of the discussion that I was really looking forward to. Probably my absolute favorite part of the movie, after the diner scene, when they are talking at Arkham. That might be my favorite scene in the whole movie. I really like how he keeps saying like Bruce Wayne, and like he thinks that he knows. Like the whole time,
the audience thinks so too. Like,
the audience
kind of
thinks
on
so
the
too.
edge of like, does he know that Bruce is Batman?
Yeah.
And then he has that one comment eventually where he says, but the attempt on Bruce Wayne's life didn't work.
But we got
it makes it clear
all
he
the
doesn't.
rest of them. He said, but we got, and then he continues to outline, and not entirely incorrectly, how Batman helped him murder all these people. He kind of did get Batman to team up with him to murder people. And that is some of the greatest supervillain writing. I don't know that I could do that. I don't know that I could so competently weave a tale in where the serial killer got you to help them the whole time you're investigating. He's like, yeah, I said bring him into the light. You did. I could have never done that. I couldn't have killed him without you. And and then the moment where the conversation switches and Batman's like, no, you psycho. Like, we're not in this together. We're not. And like, he loses it. And it's
the first time in the whole movie that something really hasn't gone according to Riddler's plan.
And he
does not like that.
Lost it. And it was beautiful. It was. Paul Danno deserves to be in consideration. I think his depiction was fantastic. He's up there with Heath Ledger's Joker, not a doubt in my mind. It was
absolutely 100%. That's the best Riddler we might ever see on screen.
Ever.
And the writing, of course, like you said, played a big part of that. But his performance there, he is the full emotional range of he's so happy to see Batman. He requested to speak to Batman. He thinks that Batman's going to be happy with everything that they did together. And he's just living in this false reality and has that huge shattering moment of reality, that massive breakdown. And then, of course, takes it out on Batman saying that, you're not as smart as I thought you were, and sends Batman back out because he has missed a few more clues.
Yeah.
And that, to me, right there, that's it. The movie's over. The Riddler did great. Been. Batman did great. Everyone did great. There didn't need to be 7 vans with bombs planted around the city to blow up the seawall to flood Gotham City. The rest of what the Riddler was doing was killing all of these corrupt pieces of shit who were lying to people. And his whole thing was no more lies. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, so I'm going to blow up the fucking the seawall and flood everybody. And also, I need all of my followers to show up with rifles and shoot civilians and the new man. Like, what the fuck? That was not part of his whole thing.
You're not wrong. The thing I did
the movie kind of goes full comic book.
It does.
With the flooding of the city.
That's what I'm telling you. The movie, it should have stopped before that. It was a solid 8 all the way up until after that scene. And then everything after that was just like a 5.
Honestly, up till that scene, it was probably like a straight up 10 for me.
I was just rolling my eyes after that. Like, can this movie?
I actually agree with you a lot more than I was expecting to, because I knew what moment you were talking about. I knew exactly what you were talking about when you said there was a part they could cut. I completely disagreed with you back then, but now that we've been talking about it, I actually I don't think you're wrong, man. Like,
it almost cheapened the Riddler because all these cool plans he had, you could get behind it. He was really cleaning up the city. He was doing the thing.
I I do like his network of followers. I like that social media posting. It was really funny.
Some of it was a little bit just, I guess, close to home.
Yes,
with some of the real things going on in our country, it's like, oh man, this is kind of scary.
And then the fact that they were setting up essentially a mass shooting was actually that. See, I don't get bugged a lot. I do not get disturbed by a lot of things. That kind of got to me. That was kind of a trigger for me. I was a little upset, like, because you hear about them. I've watched news cut. Man, that shit sucks. That shit's hard. That shit's senseless, and it's hard to see in real life. I don't know that I need a supervillain to set up a mass shooting in a fucking superhero movie. I was fine with the seawall blowing up if it had a better point to it. You're right. I liked that he did it because that was a cool superhero. Like, ha ha ha! Here's my opus. And I also really enjoyed the carpet.
If someone's going to set up a mass shooting, to me, that really seems like a Joker-esque thing, right? Where a bunch of maniacs show up they throw on masks and start shooting. It's not a riddle. It's not a puzzle. It wasn't some thing. It wasn't Riddler at all. It was just. Yeah. To Drew's point, it was comic booky, just kind of shoved in there, and the movie was stronger without it. Without the final act.
Yeah. That being said, some stuff in the final act was really cool. I did actually enjoy the end result of things because, like, the mass shooting wasn't really successful. They didn't really kill people. Batman beat up people. I liked that he got blasted by a double barrel shotgun and went down, and then I loved that. I loved the when he took the adrenaline.
After that, whenever the giant electric cord was swinging towards the water about to fry everybody, and Batman was like, "Oh," you could just see it on his face. He's like, "Damn it, this is gonna suck." And he zipped over to it, grabbed on, and then cut the live wire. And the whole time, you could just see him like, "Damn it, this is gonna be the worst." I liked that entire scene.
That was a cool scene.
I thought that was a cool, Batman doesn't just fight bad guys. He also goes over there and makes sure that light doesn't fry everybody and kill you. It's a good reminder of what a hero does.
That I liked about the third act is that at the end, after everything, when he's kind of helping, with all the people who are hurt and they're on the roof, and it kind of gives this feeling of hopefulness for Gotham, which is very rare for a lot of these Batman movies that are so just dark and not depressing necessarily, but like Gotham almost seems kind of hopeless. Yeah. And this is the first one that I feel like has portrayed a little bit of optimism moving forward, and I liked that about it.
Go ahead.
I did like that he's just in the Batsuit in the daylight, like helping people, and no one cares. Like they just let him, like it was cool. You don't get to see it, and it feeds more into the whole thing they were talking about. Like this is the real him, and I just like the fact that Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne, he was just a fucking an unsocialized weirdo, because that makes way more sense for the character than any other. Like he wouldn't have social skills; those come later. I like the raw, unacquainted Bruce Wayne standing on top of a rooftop dressed as Batman, helping people in the middle of the day.
Looks like they set up for sequels if they wanted to, right? The Riddler's still alive. He's in Arkham Asylum. There's at least one other character in Arkham Asylum.
This is the kind of the big spoiler moment that we haven't touched on yet that you're about to get to.
And it was just kind of the point of, seeing the there's hope for Gotham, right? They set up for more Batman. They set up for more bad guy. And then they did a little tease reveal in the asylum. And I thought it was kind of lackluster. I thought it kind of sucked.
Yeah.
I am fully with you. I did not like this scene.
Me neither.
Not only did I think it was lackluster, like I said, I thought it kind of sucked. Mm-hmm. Like it was almost bad.
Yeah. Because I don't know, it seemed like they were playing like that guy was supposed to be the Joker or something. Meh.
Yeah, meh.
He's so the scene
I don't need another Joker.
About, the Riddler's incarcerated in Arkham. Somebody talks to him through the little windows, a fellow inmate, And he says something along, I don't have the quote pulled up in front of me, but he ends up saying something along the lines of, sometimes you're doing something and sometimes you end up like a clown.
The less you have, the more it's worth. He tells him that little riddle, and he says he's his friend. But yeah, you're right.
He says the word clown, and then he laughs maniacally. And it seems like a setup for the Joker. I really don't need the Joker. I don't need him. They proved, what Paul Dano proved is that you don't need the Joker. There are other villains, and they can be great. I don't need to see him in every fucking movie.
Speaking of the scene,
the Joker's like forehead, you could kind of see his jaw, the outline of his face. And again, it looked like prosthetics. It looked like his face was like heavily pitted and jagged
very disfigured.
And messed up. Yeah, it just looked like a bit, almost like a bulbous-faced, scarred-up Joker. And I'm just like,
looked like it was trying to be the Joker from the Arkham Asylum games that's voiced by Mark Hamill. His face is very scarred and strange, like almost a more real-life version of that. I'm up for seeing more. I have a few things here. First off, the scene where Batman speaks to the Riddler after the Riddler's been incarcerated. And y'all have talked about this scene already a lot, which I loved. One of the takeaways from this scene, too, is that obviously an iconic scene from The Dark Knight is the interrogation scene between Batman and the Joker in the well-lit room. And one of the highlights of that movie. And this, to me, kind of felt like, okay, we want to show we can do this again, but with a different Batman and different villain, and it worked.
I think it was better.
And I got the same feeling. Whenever they're on the opposite sides of the glass for some reason, even though the Joker one was face to face, then almost face to face on opposite glass gave me that interrogation Joker feeling. I really felt it.
Yeah. And then one of the things that Batman Begins did well, they did the tease at the end of Batman Begins. If you remember, Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon says something along the lines.
He leaves a calling card.
Yeah, the guy leaves a calling card and hands him the Joker card. That was perfect. This scene in this movie with the Joker physically being there, even though he's not referred to as the Joker and you don't really see him, to me it's like, okay, I get that the Joker is the most popular villain on screen, period, pretty much. So I get it. I get that you want to have him there, but it just was so unnecessary. I will say, I don't know if y'all saw in the credits or paid attention to the casting of who that was, but this was Barry Keown, who's an actor, Irish actor, he was in Eternals. He's in The Green Knight, which Jahan and I just talked about. He's been in a bunch of stuff, and I think it's an inspired casting choice, a very interesting casting choice.
He's listed as officer something.
He's in the credits. He was listed as unseen Arkham prisoner.
Oh, okay, I guess. Yeah, interesting. This might be like a mislead deliberately. Yeah. See, I do agree. See, it feels like maybe the last bit was like tacked on by producers to like movie-fy things and be like, we got to get this Joker teaser in. It's what the people want. Joker's real hot right now. And and it just, because the rest of the writing was masterful, man. It was some of the best.
Druig. That was his character.
Yeah, he was Druig, the mind control guy.
Yeah. So anyway, trying to think, is there anything Batman-wise in the plot or in the movie that we didn't talk about?
I'm sure there's stuff we didn't talk about. I love it. After saying all this stuff, I think I do give it a 9. I love this movie. This might be my favorite Batman movie, and if the sequel does what the Dark Knight trilogy did, it'll be amazing. Because the second movie in that trilogy was the best one.
I would love to watch a sequel, but I'm not watching this 2.5+ hour movie again. To anybody who's going to watch it, just get up and leave the theater after they have the face-to-face conversation in the Arkham prison when him and the Riddler talk. Just get up and go. It's a better movie, and you're doing yourself a favor.
I like parts about the final act. I also agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. I think my favorite thing was one of my favorite things was how the murder weapon from the very first kill, he was planning it that far in advance, was the last clue. And it was, hey, I hid a map of my plan underneath the carpet. This is a carpet pusher. And I actually liked that part. I thought, maybe it was kind of silly that the one cop there happened to know about carpet. I don't know. It's not that weird of a thing to know, but I liked it.
Yeah, I'm surprised Batman didn't know what it was.
I'm surprised, yeah. I liked it. And I did kind of like his live stream to his followers. I didn't realize what he was doing with them when it was happening. I thought they were just his supporters. But, hey, thanks for the likes and the tips or whatever.
So good.
That was funny.
So good.
And then he goes off the rails, and it was disturbing. And Paul Danno...
Disturbing's the best word for all that stuff. It just made me kind of uncomfortable in the way that it was supposed to.
No, it does hit a little close to home.
Realistic villains. That's why I liked it. It's close to home because it's realistic. It's believable. It's scary. It's unsettling. All it takes is someone who's misguided and unnerved, and other people flocking to them. And you can see how dangerous it is. Of course, it's movie-fied, but that's a real fear, right? That's a real terror. That kind of crap happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch the movie 12 more times before I can confidently say this. But this might have been my favorite movie.
Yeah, I'm not
sure. My favorite Batman movie. It's The Dark Knight. I've seen Dark Knight recently. Dark Knight is a masterpiece. This is so good. I wonder if it'll hold up to multiple other viewings.
Just like they can live alongside each other perfectly fine. Like, they're different enough, they're different things, and you can compare them. But I love that we have both. Like, I love that I can go back and watch the Nolan movies whenever I want to, but I'm gonna rewatch this one in the future, and I want to see more from it. And I love that it can all that the Nolan trilogy is a thing that is done. It's finished. They're never going to add to it. It is its own thing, almost like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Like, it is this own completed thing that'll always be there forever for your comfort food to be able to
Well, there's a lot of legal stuff going on in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, so we might get some sequel action shoved right up our butts from some producer asshole somewhere. But I know, right? It makes me physically ill to think about. But yeah, I
honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if in like 10 or 15 years, Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale came back and did another Batman either.
Batman Beyond.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't know why someone isn't doing it. I don't know why someone hasn't done it. I don't know why it hasn't been talked about. Get one of the many Batmans, make him old man Bruce Wayne, and give me Terry McGinnis on the screen like a year ago. Like, what the fuck?
With oh damn, I forgot what I was gonna say. I liked this movie. I think I like the new Batman, the Batman.
Certified fresh.
I remember what I was going to say. We've seen so many Batman movies, right? We've seen so many Superman movies that I am, to Jahan's point, I'm ready to see a new character, but not even Batman Beyond. Like, I'll go see a Nightwing movie. I'll go watch a Robin movie. Just give it this production quality, because it didn't need to be Batman. The Riddler was that movie. It could have been a Nightwing movie. It could have been a Nightwing Riddler, and it would have been dope, and it could have still been Robert Pattinson. They wouldn't have had to really change anything. Sure. But we're ready to see some of the heroes that are established, that exist, that are on the wayside, and not necessarily in a silly James Gunn way.
See, that is a great point, and it makes me think about something that's wrong with the DCEU. They cling so heavily to, like, the big five. You know what I mean? Like, they are so about the core Justice League. They ignore the fringe characters that are fantastic. That's one of the things I love about Young Justice, is you get to see these underdeveloped characters or new characters altogether. We want the mythology with new stuff. We don't need you. I don't need to see the Waynes die again. I don't need to see Superman get pulled out of a pod by farmers and then go, fight hurricanes. I don't need the same stuff. You were right.
We've seen that and we know it. And as like Americans, like that's almost like the lore we grew up with, right? Most Americans know this lore.
Yeah.
And we know that these other characters exist, but you keep showing us the same characters. And this would be a more valid complaint if this movie, The Batman, wasn't so good, because The Batman was good.
They're so good.
And The Batman showed a different time frame of Batman's life and the things that he was up to early on in his career. So this one I actually really like, and so it's kind of a bad hill for me to fight on.
Well,
But
this one
I would like to
works.
see some of the other heroes that we know are out there.
This one works so well because they did every single thing different. And the one time that they, Suicide Squad, they pulled the fringe characters together with James Gunn. It was one of their best movies. It was one of the DCU's best movies.
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker.
And a whole show about a character that I didn't even know who they were, and I loved every minute of it.
I listened to I read the comics because of that. Like, that doesn't happen to me very often. I don't go, I gotta read that guy's comic. But then, like, it worked with Marvel. Marvel took all these fringe characters and made a juggernaut. DC is too afraid to try things, I think.
And to that point, there is the Batgirl movie coming out, but I would say that is just a bad idea. I would say that's not the character to stand behind.
But it has Brendan Fraser as the Firefly as the villain, and that's going to be awesome.
Poor Gary. It's like they hate you.
Well, and one thing I was going to say, on a realistic note, everything that y'all have been saying, I agree with, which is why I think that Joker tease at the end of this movie is kind of frustrating.
Very.
Because, like, yeah, sure, the Joker, like, I loved the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie. Like, it's good. But I don't need another Batman Joker movie right now. Like, I've got that with the Heath Ledger one. Like, give me a villain we haven't seen before.
Clayface.
Yeah,
Clayface. I was thinking Clayface too. Clayface. Calendar Man. What's his name? Zaz. Friggin'
there's the Mad Hatter, and
the
there's
Mad Hatter,
ventriloquist, and
Royal Flush, Puppet Master.
There's
Toy Maker.
There's some of the newer stuff, with the Court of Owls and things like that they could touch on. There's a lot that they could do.
Extend that Bat family. Let's see some Red Hood. Let's see,
Ivy.
man. They introduced one of my favorite members of the Bat family in Young Justice that I have ever seen, Orphan.
You would like Orphan.
Orphan was so cool. But yeah, I liked Orphan a lot.
I like that we had some different opinions during this, but for the most part, we're all on the same page. And I think that there were some parts that maybe we were down on before or high on, and then our contrasting views kind of brought us to the same level in talking it out.
Yeah,
I think
we had a good conversation.
I'm probably with you, Jahan. I'm like a light 9 out of 10. Like, I'm like hovering between an 8 and a 9, and I feel like I'm still positive enough to be a 9, but I feel like on a rewatch I'll be like, it's an 8, like a solid 8. So that's where I'm at. I'm
at like a high 7, really. So right now I'm probably the closest to an 8 I will be, and then over time it'll drop back down to a 7.
I'm at a 9.
I'm like a 7.8, strong 7.8 on this one.
I'm at a 9. I feel like our average is an 8 here. Certified fresh off the blocks gives us an 8 out of 10. Hell yes. What a good discussion. Go see it. It was a good movie. If you haven't seen it, why did you listen to our spoiler thing?
Absolutely go see it in theaters. Probably worth the extra $1 you'd have to pay at AMC if you go see it there, even though that sucks. But yeah.
That was another thing I forgot to mention when you asked me about my movie going experience today. Our tickets were like $6 a person since we're in some small town and went to a small theater. It was like $12 for us to go see a movie. Dope. Yeah, it was killer.
They paid us. So
we did not get the AMC treatment.
We lost big on the concessions. We went ham. But yeah.
Well, because we decided to devote this entire episode to the Batman discussion, next week we'll be coming at y'all with just a full-on water cooler kind of discussion of all the things we've been watching, talking about, with no major discussion point there. So lots to talk about next week. There's no big theatrical releases or anything, so I think it's a good catch-up week on all the movies and TV show that we've been watching other than the Batman.
You paused during that and you said we're going to come at you with a big old water cooler. And I just imagined me, you, and Jahan like running with one of those big Gatorade coolers and just dumping it on Blake, and then dumping it on Thomas, and then dumping it on Connor, just running around to our different viewers and just dumping a water cooler on them.
Water cooler of content.
I think that we should make an intro video where we dump water coolers on our friends.
We're not going to tell you ahead of time. This is your warning.
That's correct.
I guess that's it. I've been Jahanan at RockFact on Twitter.
I'm Casualty CDG, and you can find me at Casualty CDG. If you like tabletop role-playing games, come by every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night. We play 3 nights a week on Fresh Out the Box. That's we have our own YouTube. It's Fresh Out the Box. We have a Facebook, and we have twitch.tv/Jahananon, which is also where you can watch us record this podcast if you want to see us with your eyes and not just see us with your ears. So give us a follow. That's great. We like board games, tabletop games, and video games. So we'll catch you around.
I am Drew Munhausen at Drew Munhausen on Twitter. Thank you for listening to episode 35 of Fresh Out the Podcast.
Stay fresh.
Fresh out the box. Fresh out the box.
Hey there, boys and girls and others. Welcome to Fresh Out the Podcast. I'm Jahan Anan, and you can call me, I'm the Game Master Extraordinaire and Board Game Guru.
It's me, Casualty CDG. I'm a retired child crimes and human trafficking detective turned tabletop titan and improv comedian.
And I am the professional media and movie mastermind, the Funhouse, Drew Munhausen, and welcome to episode 36 of Fresh Out the Podcast.
Fresh Out the Podcast.
Last episode, we were all in on
Fresh
the
Out
Batman,
the Podcast.
which means we didn't get to talk about any of the other cool things that we've been watching, or bad things that we've been watching, frankly, because
Fresh Out
sometimes
the
we watch things that aren't
Podcast.
good.
The fuck?
I definitely have some things I watched that aren't good. So, it's our chance to kind of catch up.
I
Play
watched
some
something.
catch up.
I watched something that wasn't good. Also, Jahan, did you watch anything that wasn't good?
Not really. I haven't been watching as much stuff as usual.
What a shame. What a shame.
How do you feel about things that you watch that aren't good, but they're awesome?
Okay, so I'm even going to tell you, I watched a real piece of dog crap, and I ended up watching like 4.5 episodes of this piece of dog crap, and I didn't enjoy a single second of it. So how do I feel about it, Drew? I feel like I didn't feel good. You know, whenever you drink too much coffee and your stomach hurts and you're not sure if you're sick or if you have to poop, and you're like, uh-oh, I might actually be sick to my stomach. And then about 3 minutes later, you feel better. That's kind of how I felt the whole time I was watching that show. I didn't like it. I felt queasy. I didn't enjoy it. I felt like I was just kind of a prisoner to bad entertainment. And I just longed for something better. The sweet release, Drew.
Well, now you got to tell us what the show is.
So this is on Netflix. The show is Guardians of Justice. And
Oh, yeah, you went out of your way to message me and Jahan about this, I think.
so Guardians of Justice was so bad that I wanted one of you guys to watch it also so that you could understand how bad this is. So it is kind of like, you know how Invincible did the sort of DC type of thing without saying that anybody was actually DC characters. They just like were one step next to it. This show's the same way. There's definitely a Justice League. There's a Batman. There's a Superman and all that. Superman is on live TV and kills himself with like a kryptonite, with like a kryptonite bullet. But then they're not sure if it's a murder or a suicide. And so Diamond Dallas Page plays Batman. And he is like an owl man Batman, and he's got a really crappy like owl cowl costume. And he thinks that one of the other Justice League, as it were, had something to do with the murder. And the episode where I ended up having to... and like I said, it was kind of like Invincible. And then they copied something that I saw from the Harley Quinn HBO show. They had like a young Robin who was like a little kid who cursed a whole lot. And so they ripped that out. They ripped off Invincible. The production quality is bad. Like some of the costumes are just like like you went to a Comic-Con type of quality. And that's not an insult to cosplayers, because cosplayers have better costumes. Let's put it that way. There's just nothing. There's nothing in the show that's a winning mark. The final thing that I could handle was whenever Batman went to talk to his version of Nightwing for help. And it was Johnny Mundo, another professional wrestler. And the whole thing was like a conversation and an ear comm. And Johnny Mundo made sure to do as much of his amateur parkour, professional parkour that he could. And so it's just like cheesy action shots, awful acting, bad scenes, bad costumes, writing that is just such gross ripoffs of all the other superhero things that I've watched. It's just this hodgepodge of all of this frantic superhero energy picked out of very good things and shoved into this one piece of crap that's presented to you.
Interesting.
There are really, really cool scene transitions because the whole show's not live action. There's a lot of like hand-drawn art that comes and goes throughout the episodes, and that stuff is awesome. The art direction there is out of control. It's just a shame that it's buried in a Diamond Dallas Page-led Batman show. I don't know if you guys can just...
No, I got you.
Imagine Diamond Dallas Page.
So
Batman.
what I'm reading is that it is a is a trippy reincarnation of Alan Moore's graphic novel Watchmen, and is half animated. Is that what you're saying? You're saying there's live action?
It does. It's mostly live action, but it does have really cool animated transitions, and the animated stuff's really cool. It's got a bunch of different styles throughout it, and I actually enjoyed it, but not enough to tell you guys that this show is worth watching, because it's not. The show is so bad.
But it has Andy Milonakis.
It does have Andy Milonakis. He plays like a YouTube influencer.
That makes sense.
He doesn't actually have any lines. Every now and then it just like cuts to him on a screen, and he's like, "Oh, can you believe that his Superman killed himself?" And then it cuts away.
Is this a Netflix original?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. Let me read you the title.
I think I'm going to watch one.
Guardians of Justice is the name. I'm going to tell you guys again, because even though I've seen this show, I've typed in the name Guardians of Justice. It just floats right out of my head. It's so forgettable. It's so bland. This might be the worst superhero thing you watch this year. If I were to recommend it, it would be for that, so that you have a low bar, so that you know that everything else this year that came out was better than Guardians of Justice. I want to finish it because I've watched every single superhero thing. But I just don't know if I want to sit there and feel queasy for another 2 hours.
Yeah. I've been watching Young Justice. I've been rewatching it, and I've been loving every minute of it. So I don't know that I need to do this, but I might. You're making it sound way more intriguing than I think you mean to.
So this is just one of those things where, like, has Netflix even been promoting it? Like, I wasn't aware that this even existed.
No.
Are they trying to bury it because they know it's not good? I don't know. It just confuses
So it
me.
it just popped up last week. It was like, hey, on the download, it was like, hey, bro, look what came out today. We know you like superhero stuff. And I was like, well, Netflix, you're right. I do like superhero stuff. And oh no, no Netflix, no. How dare you? However much that costs, go put it into Cowboy Bebop season 2. How dare you?
Seriously.
How dare you put that on my TV, Netflix? You told me you watched a piece of crap, Drew.
Well, so this is a yes, and no, because it's not good, but it's a different kind of not good.
Okay.
So I went out to the theater because it was just one of those nights I just need to get out of the house. I was like, I'll go use my my Regal Unlimited to go see a movie for free, and the timing worked out such that I decided to see Moonfall. Are y'all aware of Moonfall?
Yeah.
Is this the prequel to Moon Knight?
No, this is the newest Roland Emmerich disaster movie about the moon crashing into Earth. Gary's just got the most blank stare.
Are you not aware of this movie, Gary?
Okay. When you tell me, first of all, no, I'm not aware of this movie. Let me answer your question first, and then let me address Drew's. Yes, Drew, because what you said reminds me of Volcano, which was maybe the first like natural disaster end of the world movie I ever saw as a kid. And then it reminds me of all of the ones that happened in between now and then that started The Rock, and how bad all of those are, and how bad I don't want to see people on Earth trying to survive the moon crashing into it. I just done none of that. Boy, ouch, howdy, no sir.
So, for those who don't know, Roland Emmerich, famous for directing Independence Day. He also did 2012, The Day After Tomorrow. Known for doing these kinds of big disaster movies.
Those are all terrible except Independence Day.
Yeah. So this one stars Halle Berry.
No.
And Patrick Wilson.
No.
And John Bradley, who John Bradley played Sam in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
This is just what you're saying is so bad.
And it is... they discover that the moon has slightly gone off its orbit, and there's all these things happening, and that it's going to slowly spiral closer to Earth. And... of course, I'm just going to spoil some of the stuff that happens in this movie because honestly, who cares?
Make sure to
John
throw
Bradley's
up the spoiler
character in
warning
it.
from Moonfall, John. You wouldn't want to upset any of the Moonfall fans out there.
John Bradley's character in this movie I have to make sure I get this wording right. He studies these fictional, like, super mega structures, is what they're called.
Yeah, I know what megastructures are.
Yeah, and so he determines as part of his science that the moon is hollow and that the moon is actually a megastructure that was likely created by aliens.
Yeah.
So as the moon is slowly circling towards Earth and messing with our gravitational field and making crazy things happen on Earth, crazy flooding and just everything.
Yeah.
Of course they have to go to the moon to figure it out and Patrick Wilson is this disgraced astronaut. And Halle Berry works for NASA, and they get to the moon, and they get inside the moon. It's this alien structure that was created and placed in our orbit, and
Holy
boy.
Shit.
This movie
God, that's so much worse
than
I thought it was going to be. Oh, boy.
This movie is not good at all. It barely makes any sense. But boy, did I have a good time as the sole person in the theater watching this movie, looking at the empty seats beside me when these crazy things happened, going, this is awesome, but so bad. It's so bad.
It sounds like it was made by an AI.
I was thinking the same thing, Jahan, except it sounds like it was made with one of those old, what were they called? Ad Libs, one of the Mad Libs books. It sounds like a Mad Libs story.
I mean, it's literally one of the things that they do in that Rick and Morty movie trailer that just keeps getting more and more out of hand, and then the moon crashes into the earth.
But
and things really
no,
get...
the moon was empty the whole time because
Yeah.
it's a mega structure. And
Oh,
that
God.
means you can control the moon and drive it away from Earth.
And like Michael
Fucking
Pena's
War
in this
World.
movie because of course he is. Like this is totally the type of fare that he sometimes is in. Yeah, man. I mean, this is one of those movies where I'm like, you almost just have to see it to believe that it even exists in that sense. But like,
I kind of want to.
I couldn't recommend it, but also like I had a fun time watching it, despite it being, hands down not good.
All of his movies that you named are hands down not good. They all run like 2012 and The Last Day on Earth, whatever the hell you said. They run together in my mind because it just seems like one big long movie. I know in one of them there's like a big freezing tidal wave that freezes over Manhattan, and they're trying to live out of like either the public library or maybe out of Grand Central Station
with Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah.
And then the other one, like there's a giant flood on the planet and they survive in really big arcs.
That one's about the Mayan apocalypse. Yeah.
So I've seen all of them, and I didn't realize they were by the same director. I thought they were just garbage movies by different no-name garbage directors, and I'm even more upset that this guy's legacy is making trash like this. I'm really disappointed in him. Yeah, I'm gonna save that name in my
filmography
head.
is pretty fascinating.
Those are all terrible. Does he do anything that isn't terrible? Bruce was shaking his head.
Independence Day is the big. He also did Stargate, which has its fans and has its own whole franchise. But then he did, following Independence Day, he did the Godzilla movie that starred Matthew Broderick.
Nice.
Do you remember?
Wow,
Of course
that
I
was
remember.
bad. Yeah, that was awful.
He did
Best
The
Godzilla
Patriot.
movie.
Patriot starring Mel Gibson.
That's
The Day
a good
After
movie.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, The Patriot.
Patriot's a good movie.
The Day After Tomorrow we discussed. He did 10,000 BC back in 2008.
Oh,
haven't seen that.
no.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen that.
2012, he did White House Down. He did the Independence Day sequel, Independence Day Resurgence, which I've never seen.
It was trash.
And then his most recent movie before doing Moonfall was Midway in 2019.
Yeah, I don't like that director. He can go away.
Uh,
I don't actively want anything bad to happen to him. He can just go away. He can give someone else a job in Hollywood.
So that is Moonfall. It exists. It's a thing. Jahan's giving it a thumbs up. I don't know if I would give it one, even though I'm the one that saw it, but Jahan's giving it a thumbs up. 2 thumbs up.
What else do we have? That was in theaters. You see anything else in theaters?
I did. I saw another movie in theaters. I went and saw Uncharted, the movie based on the PlayStation video game, starring Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. And it was totally fine. I mean, it's like the type of action movie that I think was really common fare back in maybe the 90s or early 2000s, just kind of like a by the numbers action adventure movie. It had some cool action scenes, but it's like kind of forgettable. It did take some things from the video game. Spoilers, there's a cameo appearance by Nolan North in the movie, who plays Nathan Drake in the video games.
Good for him.
That I caught, that was fun. But the movie, it was totally fine. Like, I don't even have that much to comment on it other than like it's very beige, like very generic looking, but there's some fun action. I think the biggest takeaway for me is that it actually has been making a decent amount of money at the box office. I mean, it's not making, tons and tons of money, but it's staying pretty strong and making good money, proving that just, I guess Tom Holland is just a lot more of a box office draw than I realized. Like, obviously Spider-Man's huge, but people go to see movies for Tom Holland that aren't Spider-Man.
I'm not even kidding. If Mark Wahlberg wasn't Sully, I think that's the character's name,
Yes.
I would go see that movie if it weren't for Mark Wahlberg. I like Tom Holland. I didn't play the Uncharted games, so I'm not going to be like married
No.
to the story. I don't care. I just don't like Mark Wahlberg, and I particularly don't like him in that role.
I've gotten very sick of Mark Wahlberg. He can go away.
Yeah, he can also go. You're right. He can go.
He can go away. To quote my friend Gary, I'd watch Tom Holland blow butt.
I'd watch Tom Holland blow butt.
He's good. You know, they did. I think there was some controversy when he was cast because, like, oh, he's too young for Nathan Drake because you know all the gamers that get all overprotective of their video game. But he was fine.
What?
You know, he did good as a young Nathan Drake, and I actually enjoyed him more than I thought I would. I've played all the Uncharted games. I like them a lot. I have no problem with them kind of changing things up. But Sully is a character in the games that I really like, and Mark Wahlberg is just not Sully. You know, it's just, I get why they did it. You know, he was supposed to play Nathan Drake for years when the Uncharted movie was kind of in development hell, and it took so long to make this movie.
Awful.
And so then they announced Tom Holland's casting, and then Mark Wahlberg as Sully. Okay, you know, it's like a tribute to Mark Wahlberg aging, right, and being almost too old to be the lead these days. So make him the mentor, but he's just being Mark Wahlberg, you know, like always.
That would have been awful if they made those with Mark Wahlberg as Nathan Drake. It would have been unwatchable. And him as Sully is the sole reason I'm not going. So if that says anything, Mark Wahlberg can go.
So that's Uncharted. I mean, maybe like a solid 5 or 6 out of 10. You know, it's totally fine, like run of the mill average action movie.
Excellent. Yeah, what else you guys been watching?
Those are the only things that I've seen in theaters recently. I also, somebody on our actual little project list wrote Me Too next to my next one. I watched on Netflix a documentary called The Tinder Swindler. Did one of y'all watch this?
It's a documentary. Who do you think watched it? I eat documentaries for breakfast. I love documentaries. It's my favorite way to consume knowledge.
Well, what did you think of this one, The Tinder Swindler?
I liked The Tinder Swindler. I liked The Tinder Swindler a lot. One of my biggest problems watching real crime stuff is when it gets too close to home, and when there's a swindler like this. There's no violence in this story, right? This guy is just a scumbag who's. The story is pretty funny, Jahan. You might like it too. So it's a true story, and it's a guy who. He, finds girls on apps and he borrows money from one girl to take another girl out and borrows money from that girl to take another girl out. And he's just blowing cash on all of them. So they all think he's rich and he's constantly just borrowing money from each of these girls.
And not just like a little bit of money, thousands of dollars to make it seem like he's this rich billionaire, flying them on private jets and truly wining and dining them.
He's got a whole entourage of guys who were in on it too that are there. They're getting paid and they're getting free meals and free hotel rooms. And it's just, I enjoyed watching it. I guess it's kind of messed up to say I enjoyed watching it. It's these people are getting their lives ruined, but yeah. This is a masterful con artist at work in the 21st century. And you see how he's using Tinder to swindle these people out of money and look like he's this high glamorous guy living this amazing life. And I've seen more and more stories like this and more documentaries like this coming out, more people getting caught up in this age of social media. But you can go change your name and you can change your face and you can change your profile. And these con artists are working social media. It's a really fun watch. I really like The Tinder Swindler. What did you think, Drew?
No, I agree. I liked it. And I think the thing that it did really well was the way that it set up the story. And it starts with one of the girls that has been swindled. And she's kind of explaining how they met and their relationship and how it took off and explaining who the guy is. And at first you're just seeing what she saw. And so you're going, I don't understand. Where's the twist going to come in? What's going to happen? Because this guy just seems like a rich billionaire who's, obviously, he's going to do something bad. And then when it starts really breaking down what's happening here, it's like your jaw slowly starts to kind of drop as you learn what's happening, and this guy's kind of deconstructed, and it's shown what he's doing. And it's also one of those movies that ends, the ending of where it's at now and everything kind of surprised me too. Not to spoil it for those who haven't seen it. I mean, it is a documentary, so you can always just like Google the guy. But
Right.
but yeah, I mean, I thought the way the documentary was put together was done really well from an intrigue standpoint.
Yeah, so in my mind, I remember the documentary being very narrative. They really gave a lot of details, and they really walked you through the story one step at a time through these different girls' perspectives. And Jahan, he does stuff like, he texts you, "You have such a beautiful smile. Go look outside," and there's like a truck full of roses there. And these girls are like legitimately being wined and dined from him. He's actually a pretty nice guy until he becomes this manipulative, money grubbing monster. But as long as everything's nice, he's the sweetest guy in the world when you're paying for his flashy lifestyle. So it's like Drew said, at first you're like, where's the problem? What's wrong with this guy? Why are you trying to make him seem like a scumbag? He seems nice enough.
Because he's tricked them into thinking he's the son of a billionaire diamond chain owner, and so he does like a, he's a con artist, so he does a good job of setting himself up to be this billionaire diamond guy who, because he works in the diamond industry, has enemies, which is kind of the story that he uses to set up so that he can steal money. Is his enemies are after him, or he's got hits on him, or whatever, and so he can't use his cards, or he can't go out in public, so he needs to borrow money. And these girls who have just totally fallen for him, not even just because of his money, but because of how charming he comes across to them and how well he communicates with them, they do it. And the moment when they start to push back on him, you see how almost diabolical this guy can be. It's pretty insane.
Crazy.
Yeah, he has all these fake stories that he uses on the different girls at different times in the relationships. Like when he needs certain things, he'll bust out the same fake story almost word for word against the different girls. Like, Yep, it's a real great documentary about a real big scumbag. I think I liked it. That's fresh out the box certified for me. I actually really like The Tender Swindler. The house we're living in right now, the homeowner has a boyfriend, and he lives in a different state, and I'm like, oh, what if he's a Tinder swindler? He lives in a different state. You have no idea what he might be up to. And so it holds like a special place in my. It's like new vocabulary, right? The Tinder swindler is like a new thing. I think it's worth noting that that's a new vocabulary as of 2022 because there's a guy.
So that's the Tinder swindler, and then the only
Netflix. I watched something on Netflix. I watched Space Force Season 2 on Netflix. And I will say that Space Force Season 1 was not good. They threw a bunch of actors that were supposed to be funny. So they've got Steve Carell. They've got Ben Schwartz, who's John Ralphio, right? And they've got John Malkovich. What's his name? David Chen. I think that's his name. The Chinese actor, comedian who's in, the one in Silicon Valley who's like the quiet roommate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's got this great cast. It's got an all-star cast, but the writing in season 1 and the pacing and the jokes, it's just season 1 was a slog to get through. I kept watching it because it was one of those times where there was nothing to watch, and I like John Malkovich enough to keep watching it. And then season 1 ends terribly. It's really bad. It seems like they knew they were going to get canceled, and they wrote it into a corner. And then season 2 starts, and it almost undoes the entire second half of season 1. They almost start over completely in season 2, to the point where I promise you don't need to watch season 1. They will tell you in the first episode of season 2 what happened. They'll fill you all in on how bad it was. Season 2 is way better. I like season 2 of Space Force. I'll watch a season 3 of Space Force. Ben Schwartz has really become a big name since the first season. He used to be the guy who was John Ralphio. Now he's also the voice of Sonic, and he's a voice in a ton of stuff. You can't help but turn something on without. Yeah, you can't help but watch anything these days without seeing Ben Schwartz's name or his face somewhere. He's a big comedian now. And since he's kind of found himself, he's a bigger role in the show. He's much more likable. David Chen, same thing. He sort of used to play this low charisma character. And now, as a comedian, he's becoming more of a household name, and his jokes are bigger and funnier, and he has more lines than he ever did before. John Malkovich, still great. Thank God that he signed up for the second season. I see Jahan's about to say something. What's his name, Jahan?
Jimmy O Yang.
Jimmy O Yang. Thank you. I'm getting him confused with someone else. So Jimmy O Yang. And then, of course, Steve Carell is, you love him or you hate him. I think people feel passionately about Steve Carell. He, to me, even though he's the lead, the story kind of revolves around his character. This is a show about the whole cast. And I like everyone else, and Steve Carell's fine. He's not playing the same character from The Office. He's not just some idiot. Instead, he's playing his version of an emotionally stunted military general with a little comedic spin on it. His second-in-command general, Brad, is hilarious. The guy's a total idiot. He can't do anything. He's a 4-star general, but he acts more like a secretary. It's good. Season 2 of Space Force, I recommend it, especially if you're somebody who managed to get through the first season. You will really appreciate the second season. Anybody else looking for garbage TV, give Space Force a shot.
Yeah. I couldn't get past episode 1. I think I told you guys. I told you guys earlier. It seemed like an episode in a show that gets written after they run out of ideas, and it was episode 1. It was just like they jumped the shark like 4 times in episode 1, and I just couldn't keep
finish season 1 by writing themselves into a corner. Season 1 was oof. You're not wrong.
Yeah. And then also, I could take or leave Steve Carell. I don't think he's really been funny since The Office. Like, he's had some decent serious roles, but I don't know that I think he's that funny.
I do like Steve Carell still, but I'm totally in the same boat as you, Jahan, for my experience with this show. I remember when it came out in May of 2020, the first season. Yeah. So right when the pandemic had first started, we're all still in quarantine, but I'm like, consistently texting with my friends, and I remember this came out and thinking, oh, it's a new Greg Daniels show, which he's the one who adapted The Office for the US from the British show, and back with Steve Carell. So you're like, okay, like this seems like a recipe for success. And I remember back then that even Gary and our friend Ben and some other people we text with started watching it, and nobody really had anything good to say about it, but they were all watching it. And I was like, I'm still going to give it a shot. And I had the same experience as you, Jahan. I watched the first episode, and it's only 30 minutes long, and still I struggled. I think so.
It felt like forever.
I struggled to get through it. And so I kind of thought they just weren't going to, because it's been almost 2 years since the first season came out. So I kind of thought maybe they were just done with it.
I never thought we'd see a season 2.
Because the first season, I feel like, was highly anticipated, and then it just kind of dropped like a wet fart, and like nobody really...
How are you going to season 2 of this and not Cowboy Bebop?
Thank you, right? Give me that Cowboy Bebop season 2. Stop playing around.
Such a bananas decision, man. That shit was awesome. Yeah.
Anybody else on anything on Netflix, or does anyone else have any crap to talk about Space Force?
I don't have anything else about Space Force, but I will just say one more on the movies front, because the rest of my stuff, as far as what I watched, were TV shows. But just an additional movie. I talked a couple weeks ago how I had watched Insomnia. It was the only Christopher Nolan movie I hadn't watched. And then, of course, there was a lot of anticipation with the new Batman movie coming out. And so I was like, I didn't want to revisit the Nolan Batman movies, but there was a Nolan movie I did want to revisit, and it was The Prestige, which is the Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale magician movie directed by Christopher Nolan. And I'm not, this movie is over 15 years old. I think most people have seen it probably at this point, but I will just say I still think this movie is a masterpiece. I think it's great, and it holds up. And yeah, that's it. I mean, great movie.
I've never seen it.
Really?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
It's one of those,
Me neither.
Christopher. Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this shocks me. I just assumed this is what everybody's seen. This Christopher Nolan was the prime example of a director who would do like the one for you, one for me mindset as far as working with the studio. Like he did Batman, and then the studio's like, we want more Batman. He's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get to that, but I'm gonna do this movie that I want to do first. And they're like, okay, as long as you do Batman after you do that movie. So he did Batman Begins, then The Prestige, then The Dark Knight, and then Inception, and then The Dark Knight Rises, and then Interstellar. That's kind of how Christopher Nolan worked. But The Prestige is probably still one of my all-time favorites of his. It's just a great movie about competition and greed and obsession, and all played through these kind of warring magicians. And it's a great movie. I highly recommend it. Since y'all haven't seen it, I won't spoil anything because you both should absolutely see this movie, especially if you like other Christopher Nolan movies.
I do. Doesn't
Hit or
this movie
miss.
have something to do with magic?
It does.
I also like magic. So I like Christopher Nolan and I like magic. So I could probably get behind this.
And it's got Michael Caine and
Oh.
Scarlett Johansson
Oh.
and David Bowie's in this movie. Andy Serkis
Oh.
is in it.
Oh,
Yeah. Stacked cast, for sure.
It's got all
Rebecca
of them.
Hall, who I love. She's in it. Yeah, good stuff. It's a good movie. That's The Prestige. Throw it to one of y'all for another TV show.
yeah. I've been watching shows. Do we want to talk about what's this funny? I've got one on Amazon, one on Hulu, and one on HBO. We'll start with the HBO. This is the Righteous Gemstones. I've been talking about it for a few weeks. The Righteous Gemstones finale finally dropped, and I don't want to say too much because I really think that you guys should watch it. I know you don't care if I spoil it because it's the Righteous Gemstones, but I promise you there are twists and there are things to spoil. So I'm not going to. You should really watch Righteous Gemstones.
I mean to.
Danny McBride has grown on me over the years. The Righteous Gemstones is probably his best work.
This has been on my list too, especially after hearing some high praise from you and some other friends as of recently.
I love John Goodman. I think everyone does. He's like America's dad's dad at this point, like America's grandpa. He's getting older, but ever since Roseanne and ever since the Flintstones, he's been America's dad to me. And so seeing John Goodman in this is great, and he also has a character that has some depth. And of course, Walton Goggins. Good lord, Walton Goggins is baby Billy Freeman. And he is the uncle of the deceased mother, and the mother's been deceased through the whole series. And so he's just kind of this family member that's hanging around. And he is like a Southern Baptist, like skeevy salesman with big pearly white teeth and big tinted glasses and stark white hair. And he's just so over the top and so gangly and so funny. In this season, he reconnects with his son, who he abandoned in a mall. So it does a flashback. His son's in a mall, and he's like, "Go on, Harmon, pick your favorite kitten." And as soon as the kid goes to pick a kitten, he just runs away and leaves him in a mall alone on his birthday, and drives away and never comes back. Like, he's just such a piece of shit. So in this season, he goes back and reconnects with his kid, and it's adult Macaulay Culkin. And they have this like whole like maybe 8-minute conversation, and the only thing that's going to make him feel any better is just square punching baby Billy right in the face. And so you just get to see Macaulay Culkin just sucker punch the shit out of Walton Goggins. It's just you got to watch Righteous Gemstones. Season 2 is fire. They keep characters from season 1 that you can tell were just like they were in the script, but the actor they cast was so good that they wanted to keep that actor around. They wanted to keep that character around, and you can tell, you can absolutely see it, and they keep almost all the side characters in the end because everybody's performances are just so funny. um, I don't even have to say the name again. Righteous Gemstones season 2. You guys should check it out. The finale is Dunskies now. Now we got to wait for
Nice.
season 3.
I got one on HBO.
Yeah, man.
But it's a rewatch. I just wanted to mention it. I can't say enough good things. It's probably one of the best superhero shows out there. Young Justice. I've been rewatching it, and man, because like we're playing a superhero game on one of our streams, and this I kind of pull inspiration from this show a lot. I really enjoy it. It some of the emotional depth they really go places with the characters. They really get personal. They really get emotional with things. Crazy, like they're not afraid to make big things happen, like death. You know, like a lot of times these shows don't want to kill anyone. Psychosis, just all kinds of stuff.
I was actually talking to Zach about this show earlier, about Young Justice. And I think that Young Justice has some great episodes with great moments and great character growth. And I think it also has some truly trash episodes. And sometimes there will be 5 or 6 in a row where I felt like I just had to put my head down and slog through some of Young Justice.
Season 3 isn't my favorite. Season 2 probably is my favorite.
Season 3 is exactly what I was thinking about. It's about maybe halfway through season 3 and into season 4. I felt like had to put your head down.
Season 4 has some really good episodes. It also has some like stuff that's kind of tedious to get through. It gets to a really cool place, and I think they're on a mid-season like hiatus right now. I think they're coming back with the second half of 4, and I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, Young Justice.
Young Justice is so like up and down on my scale of how much I like it versus how much I'm disinterested. I'll always tune back into Young Justice, I think, to see what they're up to now. I think this show Young Justice has a really strong possibility of being one of the greats for cartoons. It's only in season 4 right now. And so the more people watch it, the more people get interested, the better this show is likely to get, the more budget they'll get, and the longer it'll go on. So hopefully Young Justice gets better, and I believe that it certainly can.
Yeah.
Over on the Hulu front, I was watching something that Drew might or might not have even recommended. I think he just told us about it. I'm not sure if he ever said we should watch it.
I was hesitant to truly recommend it at the time. Like, I was watching it and I was interested in it, but I couldn't. And I've still been watching it. The series is still ongoing, but I still don't know yet if I can recommend it. But I've liked the past couple episodes more than I liked the first few.
And of course, the It we're talking about is Pam and Tommy on Hulu. The story about Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee's sex tape getting leaked. Definitely some weird stuff. I didn't need to watch him talk to his penis. And I definitely didn't need to watch him talk to his penis twice.
It's one of those things, too, that just... If it was a recurring thing in every... This is so weird to talk about.
I know what you're going to say, yeah.
Penis. But, like, if it happened in every episode or was, like, a recurring thing, I guess it'd be one thing. But it just, like, it's so random when it happens. And you're like, what am I watching? And it doesn't fit with the rest of the tone of the show. It's so weird. It's so odd.
And it is just a penis. And it just opens its little penis tip and talks to him. And you're just watching an erect dick with the tip moving. It's with Jason Mantzoukas voiceover. It's just not really. Yeah, I see. Yeah, that's not the part I would have done. Right?
It's definitely funnier hearing Gary critique it than it is when you watch it in the show. Because when it happens in the show, it's not funny.
It's not funny.
There's very little that's funny about an erect penis. They don't look great.
And if you tell me there's a show where Jason Mantzoukas voices Tommy Lee's penis, like, that sounds funny in theory. Like, that should...
I'd watch a series called A Man and His Dick.
That sounds funny on paper.
Kind of like that Elijah Woods Wilfred series. Maybe, like, instead of a dog, it's his penis.
So don't let me get too far from the show. I like Pam and Tommy. I do. I love I don't even know the actor or actresses' names that play Pam and Tommy. but they were born to play these roles.
So it's Sebastian Stan plays Tommy Lee, he's the
way.
Winter Soldier from
way.
the Marvel
He's
movies.
So good. He's so good.
And then it's Lily James plays Pamela Anderson, which she is the female lead in like Baby Driver. She was in the Disney live action adaptation of Cinderella. She played Cinderella. She's been around. I like her a lot.
I guess I had some preconceptions on what I thought Pamela Anderson was like. And watching Pam and Tommy, she's so much more like Dolly Parton than I thought she was. She just seems so sweet and so nice and so genuine and so easy to take advantage of. She just seems like such a innocent, sweet person. And
the show definitely sets her up as the sympathetic character.
Tommy Lee is just such an absolute piece of shit. Except to her. To her, he's mostly pretty good when he's not doping her up because he's a piece of shit. And then Seth Rogen's character is it's a compelling storyline. I love Seth Rogen. I'm a mark for Seth Rogen. Back in high school, people used to tell me I looked like Seth Rogen. So I eventually wound up just watching his entire filmography from Freaks and Geeks forward and convinced myself that I liked Seth Rogen now. So maybe that's why I like Pam and Tommy. But I just catch.
Have you watched, Gary?
Like 5 or 6 episodes.
Okay, so you're about where it is. So okay, yeah, just making sure.
I've watched a lot. We're gonna watch them all. I really like it, and I didn't think that I was gonna like a show about a sex tape. And the show, honorable mention, I forgot that Ron Swanson plays the producer, and so him and Seth Rogen sharing screen time is really good.
Oh yeah, Nick Offerman is just the sleaziest porn director, producer. Just
he's great.
With long hair and just ultra sleaze.
Yeah, that show is definitely worth watching, but don't put it on while the kids are in the room. There's lots of nudity, lots of language, lots of drugs. It's a fun watch, though. It's actually a lot of fun, and watching Pam and Tommy's relationship is there's something heartwarming about it, man. It makes you smile. Those two together, their chemistry is just great.
Yeah, and this was the thing I had said about the show before that I'll reemphasize since I've watched some more, is that I felt like the first couple of episodes were really pushing to be an hour long, and I'm like, ugh, like this is... I like where this is going, and I like the story, but it's overly long. Like, it's maybe too much. But this show, for whatever reason, like, the 4th and 5th episodes, or 5th and 6th episodes are, like, 30 minutes. So, it's one of those where there's some episodes that are an hour, some that are 40, and some that are, like, barely over 30 minutes. And I like that. Like, okay, good. Don't push for more minutes than you need to tell your story. And so some of those episodes that are shorter just fly by and tell you more of the story and do well. And that's one of the things that I feel like it picks up in the later episodes because of that. It can be a little bit more snappy. It's not trying to drag out the story.
I completely agree. I've got one more streaming show to talk about, and this one took me by storm, gentlemen. This one I wasn't ready for. This one's on Amazon Prime. I'm talking about
really
The Boys. The Boys presents Diabolical. And so I thought this was just going to be a cartoon show about the Boys universe. It is an anthology with different art, different writers, different directors, every single episode. It is so fun to watch. Each episode's pretty short. They're all independent. Let me read you some of the writing of the people who wrote these episodes, because this blew my mind while I was watching it. I didn't know anything about this series. First episode, written by Evan Goldberg and Seth Rogen. And of course, they were tied into the Preacher stuff also. Gotta love those guys. The first episode has no words at all. The whole thing is Looney Tunes with violence. It's almost like a Happy Tree Friends type of thing.
Seth Rogen was also involved in the Boys TV show.
That's correct. Other writers that blew my mind here, there's an episode written by Aquafina. There's an episode, of course, Garth Ennis wrote The Boys. There's an episode written just by Garth Ennis. It's great. Justin Roiland, so you get some Rick and Morty-esque type of humor. Yeah, that's the second episode. It's it's pretty funny. I think it's the one where all the kids who have gotten superpowers that are terrible superpowers, go and take revenge on their parents.
That's
And
funny.
so it's really a Rick and Morty type of vibe with
That's
you know.
funny.
Yeah, you'll like that one, I think. Episode that blew my mind. Writer blew my mind. Andy Samberg. Andy Samberg comes in and slaps down an episode, and it is not a comedy episode. It is like this very, very old married couple. The wife is dying on her bed from like liver cancer, and the husband goes and gets her the compound V that can make you into a superhero. And it's this passionate, you know, story of these two old people in love and him trying to do whatever he can to save her and her having to use that newfound power to save him. Just a great emotional story, beautiful art. It was one of my favorite ones of the whole bunch. And then it popped up and said written by Andy Samberg. And I was like, what the fuck? No way. Aisha Tyler wrote an episode. It's starring Aisha Tyler and Don Cheadle. And the bad guy in that episode is John DiMaggio. So this is just like an all-star cast of names going down the cast list. You have Ben Schwartz, Kieran Culkin, Kumail Nanjiani, Simon Pegg, Giancarlo Esposito, Michael Cera. Like, what is happening? This is The Boys Diabolical is so good. You've got to watch it. It's on Amazon Prime. The greatest thing about it is that you're not signing up for some series that you have to be invested in. It's anthology. So you can watch one and be done with it. Watch one and be done with it. You're not going to get stuck to the couch having to watch them all. But I did. I watched them in all in one sitting. So I love it. I can't recommend The Boys Diabolical enough.
I can guarantee I'll watch this.
So it's funny because y'all have been talking about some shows on HBO Max and Netflix and Prime. And so it's only fitting that the two that I have left to mention are on Apple TV Plus and Disney Plus. So covering all of our bases today. I've watched the first episode of a new Apple TV Plus series called Severance. Have y'all heard of this show by any chance?
No.
So this is a new...
It's about Lorena Bobbitt.
No. So Severance... That's funny. That's a good joke, John. Good job.
Man.
Thanks, man.
I appreciate that one. So Severance, the first episode, at least, I don't know if all the episodes are, but I know the first episode is directed by Ben Stiller.
Okay.
So yeah, first episode directed by Ben Stiller, but it stars Adam Scott is in this.
I like Adam Scott.
Patricia Arquette is in it, and a few other people. But basically, the premise of the show is very intriguing. The first episode's a little bit slow, but I'm really interested to see where it goes because the premise itself is so interesting. Basically, Adam Scott works for a company where in the department that he works in, you go through a procedure called severance. The idea is that when you enter work, you lose all knowledge of your personal life and everything outside of work. So when you're at work, it's just your work personality that knows nothing other than your work. And then when you go home for the day, you forget everything that happened at work. So you just have your at-home personality.
That's
so like
crazy.
It's like the version of yourself that's at work is just at work all the time. Because when you clock out, the next thing you remember is you're clocking back in. Almost like you're in a prison of just being at work.
Sounds
whereas the
awful
version of him that's at home is just always at home until he goes back to work. So it's very interesting premise. And there's some little interesting character things that are set up within the first episode. So I'm interested to see where it goes. But like I said, I've only watched the first episode, which really just sets up kind of the plot and what's going on at this strange company. But Adam Scott's very good in the first episode.
I love Adam Scott, and it's a shame that we forgot to talk about him as Batman in our Batman episode.
I think you're thinking of Adam West?
No, I'm thinking of Adam Scott.
No, Adam Scott was absolutely should have been on our list of Batmans.
In Parks and Rec, he has
Treat yourself.
his treat yourself day, and he goes to the mall and buys a full-size Batman costume.
And then he starts crying.
He wears it around all day.
He starts crying, like big, ugly, sobbing.
I've watched Parks and Rec, but I have no recollection of this.
It's like, that's so good.
It's very good. I love Adam Scott, man. I even
I do.
watched that terrible catering show that he was on just because I like Adam Scott so much.
It's about the cones.
Well, if you like Adam Scott, I would definitely recommend you watch this because he's taking on a little bit more serious, dramatic part. At least there's definitely some satire and things in this show, but it's intriguing. I don't have that much to say because again, I've only watched the first episode, which is really just setting up the premise. But I'm intrigued enough to continue. I think there's 4 episodes that are out now. They're dropping an episode a week on Apple TV Plus.
So that's why I like Adam Scott, is he's not like a punchline, hilarious, make your sides hurt kind of guy. He's the straight man, and he's always kind of the straight man in the show, and he just plays into these awkward situations so well, and he just seems like a real believable guy. There's nothing about him that is spectacular or strange or wacky. It's just he's real relatable, and I think that's why I like him. And yeah, I'll watch this. I think Severance might be. It sounds horrible, right? I think there was a work only version of me. It wouldn't be long until that work version of me was no longer alive. That seems terrible. But I'll watch Adam Scott play around in that world.
Yeah. So and the show is getting into like the morals and ethics of it. Like that's a plot point of it. So it's definitely digging into that. So I'll be interested to see where it goes. So that's
I like a good modern sci-fi also.
Mm-hmm.
It's always good to see new sci-fi takes that aren't
It's
just
kind of Black Mirror-y almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Black Mirror. Yeah, if you like Black Mirror, I would definitely recommend this show because it fits into Black that world for sure. And again, I think it's just interesting that Ben Stiller's been doing a lot more stuff behind the camera, and the fact that he directs this first episode, I don't know. I find that kind of stuff intriguing too. But then the other show I've been watching, so I'd mentioned before that I watched the Clone Wars animated movie that had come out in theaters, and since then I have started watching a few episodes of the show, and it's the type of thing that I can throw on in the background and watch a couple, and it's fine. But I know that there have been a lot of people that praise the show and how good it eventually gets. But the first season, the first few episodes I've watched so far, absolutely come across like a group of a few writers in a room are like, so what can we do for this Clone Wars show? And somebody's like, have an episode where Plo Koon is stranded in a ship and Anakin has to save him. They're like, great, that's an episode. What's the next one? And then, it's like, oh, Yoda has to go to this planet and convince them to side with them in the war. Great, that's an episode. What's next? Like, that's how it is. It's that you could pretty much describe some of what happens in these episodes in a sentence, but it's a 22-minute episode, devoted to that. So
yeah.
It's fine to just throw on in the background, but I'm just waiting for when it starts to get interesting. I'll put it that way. But I did, I said I was going to devote myself to maybe trying to go along this venture as long as it takes, and yeah, I'm sticking to it. So there's Clone Wars.
You're a better man than I am. I couldn't stick to it. I thought I was going to do it, and I didn't do it.
I want to, but it is a slug in the beginning for sure.
Is it a slug or a slog?
A slug.
Okay.
It's a slug.
Like Jabba the Hutt.
He might be a slug.
The only other thing I have is video game related.
Yeah,
and I think John's got a lot of games to talk.
Yeah, wow. Video games are for nerds. You guys suck.
Yeah.
John, I'll let you go first because I've been talking a lot.
All right. Yeah. Well, first off, I finally got to play me some Arceus. I like it. I like it a lot. You got to do a lot of interesting stuff. It just plays. It's like they are just taking all their data from all their other games, Pokemon Go, Let's Go Pikachu, and they're applying it to this. We enjoy throwing Pokeballs at Pokemon and catching them. You gotta catch them all. It's fun. And you gotta do that, like, you can throw, 6 rapid fire, catch a bunch of Pokemon. You gotta fill out your Pokédex by actually, conducting research, which does involve doing specific tasks and watching Pokemon do specific tasks. I love the alphas. I had my first boss battle against Cleavor, and that was crazy. I was not expecting that. It was like a Dark Souls boss. It was pretty fun. But I like it. I do like it. What about you?
I agree.
You
I like it
too?
too. Yeah, I've talked about it, a bit on some past episodes, so I won't go into it too much. But I'm excited that you've started playing it and that you like it. I think the thing that's really worth noting, because you have the Pokemon Direct here on your list, and I hope you don't mind me kind of jumping into that.
No.
But we finally got a trailer for the newest real, mainline entries in Pokemon, which are what is it, Scarlet and Violet?
Yeah.
And we didn't see enough to really confirm this, but just from what they showed in the trailer, it really looks like they might be going with some of the Arceus
I thought that was
controls or
confirmed.
mechanics that are going to be in the game.
I thought that they were using the Arceus system. I'm pretty sure they're definitely. I saw Pokemon walking around, and so it could be Arceus, it could be Let's Go, but I feel like they're going to go with Arceus because Arceus, they have something there, they know it. I think you're right. You said it was like a proving ground for future games. Scarlet looks great. What do you think? So I've been wanting to talk about this. What do you guys think about the starters?
Oh boy, I'd have to pull them up again, but there was one. I like the little fire alligator boy.
Coco is the fire alligator, and then Quaxley is the duck, and I forget the cat's name. It's like Spriggan or something.
And the duck definitely has Donald Trump hair. That's what that was my takeaway.
He does indeed. Gary, if you had to pick
What?
one of the new starters, which one would you pick?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Have you seen them?
No, I haven't seen them. I haven't seen the game. I haven't seen the trailer. I'm not going to buy Arceus. But I probably will buy Violet. And I don't know what starter I would pick. Probably a shitty duck with Donald Trump hair.
The water starter is a Donald Trump hair wearing duck.
I mean, that sounds really good.
The fire starter is a alligator that looks like a mix between a chili pepper and like a skull. And then
kind of has some dinosaur energy in him.
He does
too.
have some dinosaur
like a little
energy.
T-Rex.
And then the plant starter is a grass cat. Not as exciting. It's probably made out of coriander. I don't know. It looks like.
Do you usually have obviously all the Pokemon starters in every game are always a grass, fire, and water type.
Yeah.
Do you have a element that you typically
usually go water?
And I usually go fire.
Oh, no kidding.
Nah.
I'm grass. Yeah, that's
Usually
all.
Go water.
Just go. Yeah, I'm a mark for Bulbasaur, man. I'm a Bulbasaur, Venusaur guy from way back.
Yeah. I almost never go fire, but Fuecoco, man. Fuecoco be calling my name a little bit. I might pick that one. I don't know if I want Quaxley, man. I don't know. And the cat kind of looks meh, and a lot of people are scared that they're going to get the Incineroar treatment, and it's going to be a douchey-looking Digimon fucking final evolution. But, we'll see. I'm very excited.
Rigatito? Is that how you pronounce it?
Which one? Yeah, maybe.
The cat?
Maybe.
Yeah, the names for these are interesting. Quaxley is pretty fitting for a Pokemon.
Quaxley is funny.
Fuecoco's different.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't expecting this. It's coming out this year, which blew me away.
Blew my mind also.
I was not ready for that. Man, they're hitching their wagon to the hype, man. The hype is rolling, and they're using that momentum to drop some hot juice on us. There was a lot of cool stuff on that Pokemon Direct. They pretty much, because right now they have Pokemon Unite, they have Pokemon Go, they have Pokemon Cafe, they have Pokemon Masters, and like a few other ones that I can't remember. Every single one of those got some sort of update all at once, just boom, right across the whole field, and all of them were pretty cool. If you're like Jenny plays Pokemon Cafe, that's a cool update for her. You can like go to other people's I don't know. It was interesting. Pokemon Go, they are introducing Alohan, the Aloha region for Pokemon Go right now, and I've been doing that. That's been fun. And this is coming fresh.
I have also been playing.
Yeah, this is coming fresh off of the Silver and Gold Pokepass for $12. Did you do that, Drew?
I did not, but it seems like everybody I know who did had a really great experience with it.
Really great experience. So I don't know if it's just Katie, Because, like I've said it before, Katie's really big for Pokemon Go. We have a world champion and everything. I went to I don't want to say specifically where because I don't want people to like find me there or something. But I went to one of the places that Pokemon Go players go during these events nearby, and man, it was packed, dude. There was like 80 fucking cars, like just going here, going there. Everyone in that area, everyone's, like, okay, you drive, you park, and then you do your thing. You know what I mean? People aren't going like this. It's not an issue. Everyone's very respectful. But man, I was going back and forth. We were doing like raid after raid after raid.
You actually invited me to one of those raids. I was able to participate in one of the raids with you.
You got to play one of the raids with me, which was super cool. Yeah, man, you're catching all the legendary dogs from the Silver and Gold series. You're catching Ho-Oh and Lugia left and right, like doing these big raids with like 20 people nonstop. It was really cool. And then like the Pokemon roster rotated every hour. So there was like these sets of Pokemon that you needed, and they rotated every hour. And if you missed them the first time, they came around again. So it did a list of Pokemon each hour, different list, and then the list started again in the second half of the night. And if you completed everything, you unlocked a bunch of cool like dress up stuff for your character, and you got a quest chain that'll eventually lead you to get special Apex Shadow Lugia and Apex Shadow Ho-Oh. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
The next time they do one of these events, I just had a busy day that day, and so I couldn't commit to paying the money to do it and then only getting to play for a little bit.
Yeah.
That being said, the next time they do one, if it's on a day where I'm not busy, we'll have to meet up and
definitely
participate together, because that'd be fun.
Yeah, last time they did this, it was for like a Reggie Gigas thing. That one, we started late in the day and we still finished. This one took me like 6.5 hours of intense playing. And it, you know what I mean? Like, and then at one point, Jenny had to leave.
Got so big.
Yeah, it was a blast, man. I went and got McDonald's. I wound up like getting too much. I wound up giving some people that had talked to me earlier a couple burgers. Like, hey, I don't want them. Here you go. Like people were like, hey, everyone's real friendly in this community. Everyone's really cool together. There's like a Discord server, all that good stuff. I don't know. It was cool to be a part of a community again, because I haven't felt that much. It's hard to feel that way during COVID, and this post-COVID world is kind of. It was nice.
It's hard to feel that way around strangers.
It is.
Yeah.
But no, Pokemon Go, super cool. One of the greatest steps toward world peace in a long time. It's been joked before. But yeah, and then that's pretty much it for Pokemon for me. I have one more game to talk about. And I know you
go for it. You can talk about Elden Ring, and then I'll talk about Horizon Forbidden West to round it all out.
I don't know, Drew, did you go through with getting this one, or did you put it on the back burner?
Nope, I definitely put it on the back burner. I'm too I guess intimidated by the Souls games to dive in.
I love a challenge. I love punishment. I like punishing games, especially when tactics and like turn-based stuff is concerned. I really enjoy like a strong challenge. XCOM is for sadists. No, XCOM's for masochists. Sorry, but this game. So I loved Dark Souls 1. I played a little bit of Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 1 was great. This game was billed to me as a game for people that maybe want to get into Souls, but it wasn't like their favorite thing. This is exactly a Souls game. If you've ever played a Souls game, this is Dark Souls 1 cleaned up and in an open world. But that being said, this game's fantastic. I didn't believe the hype. I got this game mostly because like of all the hype, and also because my younger brother is super into Souls games, and I wanted to like do something with him. We already killed the boss together. It was a lot of fun. This game I believe the hype. It is fantastic. The world is beautiful. You can traverse it pretty easily on your mount. They make it kind of easy to explore, but like it can be punishing. I recently fought a dragon. I killed my first dragon. That fight was bananas. But then I'm stuck on this other fight. I'm in Castle, like Morn, and I found this boss like out back. Like you go across some water and you find this tower. There's this guy. He looks kind of like a human mixed with a manticore. He's not too big, and he has a great sword. That fight's crazy, man. And these bosses, some of the best video game bosses ever. Like, just, they're good bosses. They have awesome routines. It seems like when you learn their routine, they'll throw a new move in on you, like they know. It's weird. But the classes are cool. I'm an astrologer. That's the magic, one of the magic classes. And I get a magic at people, and it's fun. Keown's like one of the melee classes, and watching him go beef on people is pretty cool. It's just, this game really is, believe the hype, man. This game is solid. I understand if you don't like Souls games, don't get this game. I do not think that it'll change. This is exactly Souls. The only difference really is that in previous installments of Souls, you get stuck, you know what I mean? Like, you can't get past this boss. You can't do, you know what I mean? You can't go further. But in this game, it's open world. You can just go fight a different boss. You can go kill other people. You can go explore the world. You don't really, it doesn't have that specific hang up, and I think it really makes the game better.
Because I'm so scared of not liking it, if it gets a significant price drop in the future, even in like a year or two, I maybe would pick it up just out of interest of the story and what's going on with it. I've just never put in enough time in a Souls game to really get good at it and to experience that. I play a lot of video games, so I feel like I should be able to get good at it, but I've just never put in the time. Because in the past, I get to a boss, I lose once, I lose the second time, and I'm like, I'm not having fun.
I died to a boss 15 times before we started streaming. And I had fun with every minute because he kept changing. It wasn't like the same thing. I didn't die at the same part. The fights change. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know. It's just like that old school video game. Like, you got to learn what the boss does, and then like try, and like it's got that good kind of punishing.
I've played like one Dark Souls game. It's also not for me. Actually, a friend of ours texted us today. Drew and I were in a group chat, and our friend said, "I've seen all the hype about Elden Ring. Everybody loves it. Should I buy it?" And both Drew and I were like, "We don't like Souls games. I'm sorry. Like, maybe it's baller, but we're not going to spend $60 on it right now."
Yeah, I have no doubt that it is a fantastic game for people who like those games. But as someone who's not one, it's just not for me. So I would never hate on it, but it's just not, it's not for me.
And in particular, it was Lee who was asking, and Lee likes first-person shooters and competitive games. I don't think that he would like Elden Ring.
No. I don't think he'd have the patience for it either.
No, it's not for stubborn people. If you lose to a boss over and over again and you just keep going, like I might keep going on this boss because I'm still having fun, but sometimes you got to go try a different boss or go grind out some experience, get a little stronger. It's just the way it is. If that's not for you, it's not for you. Like, I will not sit here and tell you this game's perfect for everyone.
Just feel like Elden Ring has maybe crossed a little bit more of the cultural barrier. Like, it's had a little bit more hype around it than some of the past Souls games have had.
Certainly.
So people who haven't played Souls games or aren't familiar with them as much maybe have heard of Elden Ring. Because I actually had another friend reach out to me about it, one who's in Oklahoma, and he was interested in getting it. And he is a much more casual gamer. And I was like, trust me, it's not going to be your thing. Because this is a guy who, like, plays Fortnite and Rocket League and Madden, and that's about it. But he likes Skyrim, and the videos and things like gave him Skyrim vibes. And I was trying to tell him, trust me, this is not Skyrim. I think that's what he had to get over.
It's not, but man, it can stand shoulder to shoulder. The world's beautiful. It's big. The bosses are crazy. The secret dungeons are awesome. There's bum all for a tutorial. Like it
Good.
really throws you in, and it does not
I
teach
am
you much.
so sick of tutorials.
I'm so sick of
not
tutorials.
even kidding. You could never put another tutorial in another video game in my entire life, and I would be happy.
They don't explain the stats very well. Like, man, you're gonna have to look at guides, but it's fun. What were you saying, Gary?
I was going to say, we will figure out the controls. It doesn't matter. You don't need to walk us through it. Like, literally, in I Am Bread, you control bread by pushing the 4 different corners of your controller.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to walk me through that. I figured it out because I Am Bread. Like, learning the controls are almost a fun part of the game.
Yeah.
And learning what you can do with all the different weapons and stuff you have, I think that makes for a really cool experience in learning the game.
I think tutorials should all be optional.
I just have been stuck in so many hour-long tutorials or 30, 40-minute long tutorials where I'm like, please, just let me play the game. I know how to crouch under a log. It's the same button I used to crouch under a log in every game for the past 15 years.
It's true.
I know how to jump. It's the A button. And if it isn't the A button, then your controls are wrong. Like, I know how to play a video game.
Yeah.
A lot of these tutorials just push me over the edge.
This one does not have a tutorial. It drops you in, and it is an unforgiving, steep learning curve. But once you get over it, it's fun. It's very fun. I love Elden Ring. I want to play it right now. I want to play it all the time. I'm kind of obsessed.
So, speaking of games that we love, I had taken a break from Pokemon Arceus and have been playing a whole lot of Horizon Forbidden West. The sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn that came out in 2017. This is a PlayStation exclusive that's on PS4 and PS5. I've been playing it on my PS5. Man, I'll say this, for anybody that hasn't played the first Horizon game, this one just picks up straight from the story of that. So, like, you actually do need to play the first game almost to understand a lot of the story going on in the second. But that being said, holy cow, man, this game looks incredible. I already talked
It does look
on one of our last episodes about just the production quality of some of these PlayStation exclusives and how good it looks. But it's great. It's a huge open world. And but not too big. You can get anywhere you need to go pretty easily, and there's mounts and things like that, to get around. And man, I've just been having so much fun with it. I've put in probably close to 40 hours at this point, and my percentage completion on the like on your stats page is not even at 50% yet, with all the stuff that I've been doing. So I mean, there's so many different kinds of robotic creatures that you fight, most of them based off of dinosaurs, some on other creatures as well. But each battle is you have to approach it with a unique strategy, and you're constantly leveling up your gear and items to get better. And so it's the type of game that when you get powerful, you feel super powerful, and that makes it really fun. But I will say this, after some long gaming sessions with it, I've had to kind of take a break. And this is probably going to make me sound like a really old man, but this is the truth. The PlayStation 5 controller, I don't know if y'all have ever used one.
No.
It has these adaptive triggers on it, which are amazing. It makes it so much fun. I don't know how to explain it. It creates a resistance on the trigger. It's hard to even describe. You just have to experience it. But whenever you're using your bow and drawing, left trigger aims and R2 is to shoot an arrow, and you hold it down to draw that string back, and there's resistance to the trigger as you're pulling it to pull the string back. And after some long gaming sessions and getting into some really intense battles where I think my hands are very strained and tense and using strength and resistance on those triggers, that I've actually had sore forearms and wrists, like carpal tunnel syndrome type symptoms.
Hell yeah.
After playing this game that I've never really experienced before. And I did some research on it online. They were like, just take a break. Like, that's what you need to do. And so it's the first time I've ever experienced it from playing a game. And I think it's from these triggers on the PlayStation. It's insane.
Because of the way I used to sit at my computer, and me and Gary played so much League of Legends, I lost sensation in these two fingers all the way down my arm for a very long time. And it didn't come back until like a week after I stopped playing for like an extended period of time. I know what you mean, man.
Huge muscle knots right here in between my thumb, like in my thumb meats. I would just get massive like knots, just hard muscle from holding the mouse from that position. And same thing as Jahan. You know, we used to play so many hours. How long can you hold a mouse? That is not a comfortable
We played
position.
League of Legends like 6 hours a day for a while, man.
We played League of Legends more than we slept for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Horizon Forbidden West, amazing. I'm looking forward to playing more and putting a lot more hours into it. But I just had to take a break for a couple days before I get
I really want to get on this I've heard about the adaptive triggers, and they sound super cool. I'm all about it. I want that. I want that real bad.
It's truly a game changer. It's like I'm, obviously an Xbox guy and spend a majority of time on my Xbox, and I have the Elite controller that I use mostly and love that controller. But man, the PlayStation 5 controller is something special.
Yeah.
With some of the technology in it. It's really cool. I would imagine in the future, a lot of the things they've done there will become commonplace in controllers across systems just because of how immersive it can make it. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool.
Super dope. Man, we had a lot of TV and games to talk about. That was fun.
Yeah.
That's it for me. You guys done with your talks for this week?
I don't know. Are we?
It looks like.
Nothing more for me.
I just wanted to tell you guys about how much Monster Train I've been playing since I didn't have any video games to talk about.
I already know how much Monster Train you've been playing because I check.
I went to go look right now. It is 20,494 minutes, which translates to almost 14 days of Monster Train. I have one card left to get. I have gotten gold on every single card with every single team and every single neutral card that you could possibly randomly draw from the deck except for one. And I've now drawn it like 3 times in this past week, and I've lost with it every time. And next time we record this podcast, I hope to report back and tell you guys that I have 100%ed the Monster Train collection of cards.
It'd be an impressive feat. That's not easy to do. I check over on Xbox every now and again to see what people are doing. You're always on Monster Train. Always.
I am always on Monster Train. Always.
It's hilarious.
Ever since we talked about our favorite games of last year, we did that wrap-up show, I reinstalled Monster Train because I was like, why am I not playing Monster Train? And I've played it literally almost every single day since then.
Yeah.
It's how I start, or it's how I end my night usually, and it's sometimes how I start my day, just to get my brain going with different card combos and stuff like that. It gets my brain flowing.
That was over 2 months ago.
Before bed, it's a good way to go to sleep. So, yeah, lots of Monster Train for me.
No, that's why I stopped playing XCOM, because it was ruining my life. Well, hey, thanks everyone for listening. I am Johananon at RockFact on Twitter, at Johananon1 on TikTok.
I'm Casualty CDG, and you can find me at Casualty CDG on all of the social medias. If you like tabletop role-playing games a la Dungeons & Dragons, Jahan and I play tabletop role-playing games that are not Dungeons & Dragons 3 days a week. Every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, you can stop by to watch us play pretend as superheroes, play pretend on treetops sailing around where I'm a sentient colony of spiders in a vaguely humanoid form, or on Fridays, you can catch us playing indie games or Modern Age by Green Ronin. This week, we're going to be debuting, I guess actually by the time this week is next week. Follow us at Fresh Out the Box. How about that? You can catch up on all of the things we're doing, all of the people we interview. You're going to love it. We are games, and you do too.
I'm Drew Munhausen at Drew Munhausen on Twitter. Thank you for listening to episode 36, Fresh Out the Podcast. Catch you next time.
Stay fresh.